to take you where your eyes and your legs, of course, and eyes can't reach in Osun State. Of course, keeping you abreast of the conduct of the governorship election, which is one of the 8 up-cycle polls in the country. But there's nothing really unusual in the 2022 Osun election. There are now more players on the field, about 15 of them duly certified by the electoral body, INEC, but all of them are males, unlike in Ekiti State, of course, where a number of female candidates participated in the election. Also, the dynamics in this Osun election have changed from 2018. The issues are now more streamlined, but the stakes are higher and deeper. And as I said earlier, we are a team working here on camera. I'll be interfacing with my colleague, Fisayo Ogunfuyi, who is in our Osun Design Studios in Osogbo. And of course, what can we do without our team of foot runners? I call them the infantry of this brigade, our correspondents who are on the field. They will be spicing things up for us with information on the conduct of the exercise. And of course, I'll be joined here in the studio in Abuja by a distinguished panel of veteran analysts. And in the next 4 or 5 hours, we shall be bringing you all the issues, information, of course, in the Osun 2022 governorship elections. Let's take a breather now and take some commercials. I'll be back. All right, welcome back. If you've just joined in, you're right on time for us to join our correspondent. As I said earlier on, we have a team of them, veteran reporters on the field. And Lanre is in Osogbo, the Osun State capital, and he joins me live to bring us update on what's happening. Remember, election is supposed to start at 8:30 a.m. So, Lanre, what's up?
Thank you, Claire. It's on 8:30 on the dot. We started. The exercise started, and it's been massive. It's been massive here. So people have lined up and they are registering. It's going to be a simultaneous thing, like the tradition. Well, immediately you register, you go to vote. And mind you, before I forget, we are still at the Adelabu zone, one of the largest polling zones in Osun State. And immediately you register, you go and vote. And one thing that is very, very glaring is that they give the people with physical challenged persons a special area, and the elderly, they are given a special attention. In fact, they are on a different role entirely. And the physically challenged are given things that they needed to vote, and they are given things that they needed to vote. And they are expecting a lot of people here, although this zone has been broken into some units. Claire.
Yes, Larry, I heard that. You said the zones have been broken into polling units. And in the course of our conversation, we'll have to look at the distribution of voters within those polling units. We hear, of course, the delineation of polling units by INEC. But let me ask you, what can you tell us about the demography of those that are on queue now in terms of, because we hear that majority of those who got their PVCs were students, and ASU is still on strike and students are still at home. So what is the demography of those that have come out to vote that you can tell us?
Thank you for that question. I'm seeing youth. A lot of youth are coming out to vote. They are in their numbers. From the elderly are very few. In fact, the roll made for the elderly is they have about, the last time I counted, there are about 7 or 5 on the roll. While the queues for the youth, if my cameraman can move the camera to this side where I'm standing, you can see that we have a lot of youth on the roll, standing by to go to do their registration and vote immediately. Clear.
Okay. I see those on queue, Lanre. Talk to us again about the promptness of the ad hoc staff. Did they keep to time? INEC has assured that things, will go as planned. And of course, late arrival of ad hoc staff is usually one of the, problems during election. So what can you tell us about time of arrival and what is going on at the moment with the ad hoc staff?
I can tell you, I met them here, and I'm considerably early. I met them. They have been here since 7:30, and they've prepared. They have been sitting down, folding their arms, waiting for the right time, waiting for 8:30 for the exercise to start. Even before the exercise, they gathered the little people that are around and give them a pep talk. Everybody is set. The beavers are here, even everything. I met everything. I had a talk with them. They gave me numbers. They are expecting numbers. And they said they are ready and they are raring to go. Claire.
Okay, talk to us about Oshogbo, where you are, in terms of the swing, votes and all that. What is special about Oshogbo, and what impact do you think that area will make on the outcome of the elections?
Listen, the impact this area will make in the area of election, we are only in one zone in this area. Alekuwado is a large area. There are about 3 or 4 zones here. In this one zone only, they have 1,000, they're expecting 1,250 something voters to come and register and vote. In one zone, they are expecting about 40. In another zone, they are expecting also about 1,000. And so this place will have a considerable impact on the results of the election. And that is one of the reasons why many media houses are here to see how this is going to take off. And from there, they can now go to all the zones. Before now, about 3,000 people vote here for INEC to delineate the the polling centers into smaller centers. Even with that smaller centers, they still have about 1,000 people coming to vote in this area only, Claire.
Thank you, Lanre. Again, I'd just like to ask, Oshogbo is in what senatorial district?
I don't think so. I don't think so. But I believe it should be. I'll ask around. I don't want to give information I'm not sure on here, but I think I will have to ask if this is under a senatorial district. I would like to ask that, but I'm not sure.
Okay, Lanre, I think we'll just keep it at that. I'm sure that we'll come back to you for more updates on what exactly is happening. But just before I let you go, 8:30, the governorship election is scheduled to hold between 8:30 and 2:30, and we're past 9 o'clock. So, what is going on at the moment?
Or the streets are deserted. I can tell you that. This area is often a busy area. I've been to Oshogbo once, and it's often a busy area. I can tell you right now, people are walking towards their polling centers. No cars are allowed. There are heavy presence of security personnel on the roads, checking on people. In fact, I just saw NDLEA officials coming to the police stations. I was wondering, what are they doing here? But then, the all security, but that goes to tell you that all security personnel are on high alert and they are doing their job. So the streets are deserted. Everybody is coming out to vote. And what you expect in an election is going on right now. Claire.
Mm. Larry, I actually wanted to know if accreditation, is going on at the moment since it's way past 9 o'clock, and then how long it will take for that to happen.
Well, what I can tell you right now is that accreditation is going on simultaneously with voting exercise. You accredit, they use the beavers to accredit you. Then you go to another INEC officials that will give you the voting materials. Then you vote and you go, and they will mark you. And that will take place from now to when the time is up for them to close shop for voting for now. That is what is going on right now. And people are coming in. There's still a lot of people coming in. As I'm standing, the lines are getting longer.
I wish we can see
Claire.
a bit. I wish the camera can just give us a bit of, the length of queue so that, Larry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I said I wish your cameraman can just give us, a long view of what is going on at the back so that we can see the length of the queue that you're talking about. And talk to us also while that is going on. Talk to us also about security. The DIG in charge of that zone, that Kokomo, did say that adequate security had been provided for this election.
All right, I will move away from the camera a little while I talk to you. My cameraman will try and show the length of the line that we have right now. And it will be showing it slowly. So about security, they are ever present here. It's an impressive presence, and it's not threatening. That is one of the impressive part about security here. It's not a threatening security presence. It's a security presence with respect for human dignity, and it's been impressive. It's been impressive. Every cranny in Osogbo and indeed in Osun State, I heard that there have been security presence. So the security here is top notch. Claire.
Okay, I don't mean to keep you any longer so that you can get on with information gathering for us, Larry. So I just let you go and come back to the studio here. And of course, I have with me, I'd like to introduce one of my guests who is already here with me in the studio. And I have kept him waiting, Dr. Suleiman Barnabas. Dr. Suleiman Barnabas is a doctor of political sociology at the Base University here in Abuja. He's also a veteran political analyst. I kept him to have a cup of tea while I talk with Larry. Thank you for joining us
Thank you
for
so
this.
much for having me.
Yes, earlier I was asking you when we talk about cycle elections and the Osun State, what goes on in your mind as a Nigerian?
Well, what goes on in my mind is that Nigerians, again, in this context, the people of Osun State have the opportunity to go out there and elect their next governor. And that's very important. Secondly, I also think that whatever happens in this Osun election is a pointer to what will happen in 2023. And so I want to see how INEC is going to perform. I want to see how the security agencies, despite their show of force, will allow that force to translate into the people making choices, in the context of whom they want to become their governors without any interference. So it's an opportunity for us to see how a single case can point to a larger case in 2023.
Beautiful. That's beautiful. Let's look at Osun 2022 election. It's one of the 8 of cycle elections, in this year. Osun will not be part of 2023 elections. And this is as a result of certain, issues, that have gone. Just tell us about what you think about our up-cycle elections. In the past, from 1999, elections were conducted at the same time, and winners were sworn in almost, especially governors, at the same time. But that veered away, and I think somewhere along the line it veered away. So, what do you think have been the conduct of up-cycle elections so far?
Well, it depends on how you want to see it. some people see the offside elections as the a better opportunity for them to provide security, because of the coverage. We hear now that the police is sending thousands of their men. Same thing with the other security agencies, just to ensure that it's free and fair and that there are no intimidations here and there, what you normally see in the general elections. However, it's a permanent, marker on how certain people or even institutions and politicians particularly have undermined our democracy in the past. Because without rigging of elections, we wouldn't be having these offside elections. So those who brought us to this point, I'm sure if they have good conscience, will be each time they hear of offside elections, they will actually be reminded of the roles that they have played in undermining our democracy.
Dr. Suleiman, we will come back to you to talk about the impact of cycle elections, because they are not without their own, consequences. Of course, when you veer away from the regular, you must have consequences. So let me, again, I told you I'll be interfacing with my colleague Fisayo Ogunfuyi, and Fisayo is in our Osun Decides studios in Osogbo. Fisayo, it's good to see you. This is not Ekiti where you had lots of pounded yam. What are you eating in Osogbo this morning? You had lots of
Give you
pounded yam.
the
What are you
lowdown
eating in
on that
Osogbo
very
this
shortly,
morning?
because I've been discussing with the GMA in Ushobo that I may need some local spices even on my way back. But don't worry, we'll talk about that, especially after we've gone through all this process. But it's instructive to do that. Osun State and its indigenes, both home and abroad, have waited for today, the 16th of July, 2022. It is the day the people, at least the eligible voters, will literally put their fingers on the destiny.
Fisayo, I'm sorry. It's difficult to hear what you're saying. So I think we're having some challenges with your audio. So while the engineers try to fix that, let me return to the studio and engage Dr. Barnabas. We're talking about off-cycle elections and what they can do, to the electoral process and to democracy itself. So what do you think has been the impact so far?
Well, the impact of the off-cycle election, one, is that it gives INEC and our security agencies the opportunity to redeem the negative perception that some people have about their roles in our elections. And to a very large extent, they have actually shown that if they have enough men on ground, they can actually ensure that the process is relatively free and fair. In these off-cycle elections, we've heard little about killings. We have, less of violence and all, compared to what we hear, in the regular general elections, where you are talking about Kogi State, you are talking about different states, different regions. It's like biting more than you can chew for the security agencies and even for INEC in terms of logistics and what have you. But in off-cycle elections, particularly just having to, deploy all the resources to just one state, and that's why we see them come out with results faster than what we experience in the general elections, where you have different states, different issues, and the headquarters having to receive calls from different states, different places, and all different stakeholders. So the off-cycle elections provide the opportunity for our democratic institutions to actually show that truly they mean well for our country, for our elections, and that they will be free and fair and show a whole lot of fairness in whatever they do.
Thank you. And just to update our viewer that, of course, the 8 states that, will not be on the 2023 electoral calendar, of course, are Anambra, Bayelsa, Kogi, Edo, I think Imo, which other state again? Yes, I
Bios.
said Bayelsa. Then Ondo,
Yes,
Ekiti,
Ondo and Ekiti.
Ondo and Ekiti, and then of course Osun. Now Osun election in 2018 produced what is happening today. Can you speak to that a bit for us? The controversies, that led to the, cancellation of the result of the election, and then why we are here today.
Yeah, what we saw in 2019, 2018, I hope it doesn't happen. It was something that everyone who truly means well for this country, didn't feel happy about, where people were, clearly deprived of voting, a whole lot of issues coming up. And like I always say, politicians will do anything to win elections. So we appeal to the consciences of our politicians, particularly the political leaders, to take the country as a priority above their personal ambitions. They should allow people to elect people that they want to become their leaders without let or hindrance. So 2018 is a bad situation, particularly the rerun
Yes.
of that same election, where we saw
That produced the switch.
exactly, and that's why Adeleke keeps on saying that the election was stolen in 2018, and that but it's going to be different. One, the incumbent wasn't an incumbent as at 2018. So whatever he has done, whether he has performed or not, will tell in these elections. And Adeleke also has told these people to come out and redeem or make a statement that in 2018 they were deprived of their leader. So we'll see what comes out. My appeal, however, is that the security agencies, INEC officials, and all stakeholders must be on their guard to ensure that the people are not deprived of their leaders, of their votes.
All right. I'm sure we're not campaigning for any particular candidate, so we just have to be careful about how we do that.
Yes.
Today's the election day. I just like you to speak to us again, because the margin of lead principle of INEC, is also a determinant of whether an election will be, declared inconclusive, or whether there'll be a rerun, or whether there is a state will fall into the off-cycle election state.
Yes. The problem with that principle is that we have seen in other states that those principles didn't matter. So once there's no consistency, then you are creating room for conspiracy theories to come up with whatever they have to say. So once there's a consistent pattern, and you see that in all the states of the country, in all the elections that INEC has conducted, these principles are consistent.
Yes.
That if these margins do not match, winners will not be declared. Then people will be okay with it. All sides will be okay with it. The problem is when you allow it happen in one local government, in another local government it doesn't happen, and then people
But we
will
haven't
start.
seen such case.
In our political history, we have a lot of them. A lot of them in our political history.
Okay.
A lot of them in our political history.
Okay, let's look at the Osun election. It's been described, by various, or with various adjectives. Some say it's a litmus test, and I say it's not just a litmus test. It's a decided election. It's an epic election. It's an election that will gauge so many, issues, within our democratic history. But Dr. Barnabas, let me again put you on hold. I hear that my colleague Fisayo Ogunfuyi is back, and that I can hear him loud and clear. Fisayo, all right. I didn't get much of what you were saying about the eatery in Osogbo and Ekiti.
And hear hear me loud and clear because we are watching the vote from here, and you all get to understand that in a few short moments. Now, Osun State and its indigenes, home and abroad, have waited for
Lips, moving up and down. I think we're still working at that. Don't worry. These are all part of the challenges of technology. We will get to that, I can assure you. Back to Dr. Barnabas. So what do you feel? What can you tell us about, the weight of this election?
Well, the weight of this election means a lot, not just to the people of Osun State, who will be the primary beneficiaries of the outcome of this election, but to Nigerians.
Okay.
Because justice to one is justice to all, and injustice to one is also injustice to all. So Nigerians also see this as a test of what is to come, or a pointer of what is to come in 2023. Don't forget, there are technologies that INEC are test running in preparation for the general elections in 2023. And we hear that they will deploy them in these particular elections. The effectiveness of it, the efficiency of it, will also speak to what is likely going to happen. And INEC is also going to learn from this also. Politicians always have a way of coming up with new ways of undermining the integrity of institutions.
But let's take the items,
Yes.
one by one. You talked about the impact for the people of Osun State, and I just like to add to it, the saying of a popular one of my favorite quotes. I can't remember by whom now. It says that voting is the expression, of our commitment to ourselves first, to one another, to this country, and to the world. So this is what Osun people should be hearing and saying to themselves.
Absolutely. Because you see, democratic culture is same everywhere. In all societies, the principles of democracy are one and same. And so the whole world, being a global village, is interested in good governance. And one of the things that leads to good governance is when the people elect who become their leaders. And even when the consequence comes in the form of not doing well, again, it is the people's right to change. So that's why we are all interested. The media, politicians, opposition, the ruling party, even the president is interested in what happens. Because if the election goes well, the president will be commended.
Let me put you on hold.
All right,
Let me put
that's
you on
okay.
hold. Fisayo is here. Fisayo, what did you do to the microphone? I can hear you. Okay, we are still at it. Not to worry. Not to worry. Don't get depressed by that. These are some of the challenges that we encounter when you have to, deal with technologies and all that. So, please go ahead.
So, the president will be commended if the election goes well. If there's any failure today, God forbid, in terms of insecurity or in terms of the people not having their choices, the president also will be the first person that people will start castigating. So, like the president will always emphasize that people should be allowed to express their choices in whom they want as their leaders. That's the expectation from me. That's the expectation from you. That's the expectation from the people of Osun State. And we hope and pray that at the end of the elections today, just like it happened in Ekiti, the generality of people will agree that yes, election to a large extent will be free and fair.
In 2018, the issues, were not as we have today, although they have been streamlined. Maybe all the candidates talk about variously infrastructure. There's the issue of security, and there's the issue also of welfare. So, how do you see, the Osun mentality, with regards to the conduct, conducting themselves during elections?
Well, the report we hear from
Larry.
Larry is that security is, perfect, and that the people are also organized.
Can security be
Well, I mean,
well,
on
at least.
that the security arrangements rather is perfect, and that the people are also, ready on the queue to elect their leaders. You see, it's not at the starting point that in elections, by what our experiences have shown, is not at the start of elections that you have issues. The mid, then after the elections, elections.
Yes.
So let's see how the security agencies will be able to ensure that it's not just why people are voting, that their votes are also secured. You don't have cases of ballot snatching. You don't have cases of talks invading the or intimidating voters. So we hope that continues to be the story, like we hear now from Oshogbo, and that you go to the localities also, because most of the security issues you experience in elections in the context of intimidation, they happen at they happen in the villages, the local areas where they don't have security agencies, or they are limited, or where they don't have media presence and all. So the people have the right to also defend their votes.
And if you notice that in 2018, the reason for the cancellation of or for the rerun elections was because of the cancellation of a number of votes.
Yes.
So do you have any apprehension of that happening?
No, I don't.
Why?
Because INEC would have learned from that experience. And if you see the elections, subsequent elections that were conducted, you see the issues of inconclusiveness and all is being addressed. And that's the nature of a growing democracy. A lot of failures and failings will be experienced at certain point in time. And the institutions working, not just INEC, but the security agencies, will also have what you call the flashpoints, and they will have to deploy more resources to tackling such challenges. So I do not expect that what happened in 2018, 4 years after, will repeat itself. If that happened, then it will be failure of the institutions.
I'll allow you to sip your tea, and then I'll return to you. We hear voting has commenced in some wards, as INEC is reported to be working to ensure equal access for all voters. And of course, I wish I could get more of the information, as we hear that voting has commenced. So we can't see what is going on at the moment, but based on what Larry said and what we saw, what would you say about the beginning of the polls now? In terms of arrival of the adult staff, in terms of availability of security, and the demography of those on the queue.
Yes, I think that it's interesting what we saw about the demography of the voters. I'm impressed that young people once again are coming up to show that they are interested in leadership. They are interested in who becomes their leaders. And we are seeing that in Oshogbo, where young people are coming out, to elect their leaders. It's a good sign. I wish and I hope that those votes will count at the end of the day.
I would also like us, because don't forget that we're still looking at the weight of the Osun election. We've discussed the weight on the people. We're still going to discuss the weight on the candidates, and of course those I will call the outside contestants, the power brokers and all that. Again, let me take you. I was giving you some information that voting had commenced in some wards, and INEC is reported to be working to ensure equal access for all voters. So I think it's time to see what's happening in some of those wards. All right, welcome back. That was one of the polling units in Osun already. Voting has commenced. We also hear that in Ife North, local government area of Osun State, voting had commenced. And among the voters at Yakoyo ward of Ife North are physically challenged persons. So let's take a report on this.
Yakoyo in Ife North local government, where voting has commenced. Now, in the queue, we have able people and physically challenged persons. Here with me is Ojenide, who is one of the physically challenged persons in this ward. Can we speak with the thought?
I cannot sit at home because this election is part of my civic responsibilities. And as a physically challenged people, I need to participate fully to develop my local government.
I am a blind person. I can't just sit at home without exercising my civic duty of voting for my choice in this election.
I have come to cast a vote in order that the Nigeria may progress. The reason for my coming out is to make sure that I participate in what is going on, to choose leading personnel, that Nigeria progresses. I'm having the challenge of nerve system. All my bodies are disorganized.
All right, that was Ife North, where voting had commenced, and I hear Ife North has a registered voter population of 58,673. PVC collected as of July 4, 2022. This is from INEC, updated 35,724, and also Ife North uncollected PVC 22,949. Total PVC for Ife North will be 58,673. Don't worry, as we go on, we'll give you the graphics of all the details for you to see. But I will return to Oshogbo. Fisayo is now ready to speak with me. I thought something was going on, but thank God we've rectified the audio challenge. Fisayo, if you can hear me, talk to me.
Well, everything is clear now. 15 candidates are in the ring for the contest in which only one can come out with the garlands. We have witnessed campaigns at a frenetic pace in the past few weeks with speeches, promises, and pleas targeted at the next few hours that will consent to a new direction or give thumb up to the current arrangement. We'll soon find out. So this is the latest in the final installment of the INEC season of off-season election, permit the pun. The litmus test for our level of preparedness for the general elections early next year. An opportunity to gauge the effectiveness of the technologies deployed and the efficiency of the officials on ground. What is certain is that the people of Osun are ready, and of course they are already doing it, to cast the ballot this morning. They will mark the script of the incumbent and evaluate the credentials of the challengers. NTA is monitoring the entire process with its lenses, and we'll give you updates in our tenses. Let me welcome my guests. Let me start with the lady in the middle, and that's Cynthia Bamalu, Director of Programs of Yaga Africa. Thank you for joining us bright and early.
Thank you.
And of course, Cynthia Wanwango, board member also of Yaga. Thank you for joining us as well, because I know your schedule is tight. Thank you for joining us on the program. You are watching the votes. I'm watching you. So, Cynthia, tell us a bit about your expectations and your experiences from, the past off-season elections we have witnessed. I saw you at the airports also when we were going to Ado-Ekiti as well. What are your impressions so far? And is there room for optimism, or is it dire?
Well, I'll start with positive. There's always room for optimism, because one of the things we're beginning to see is that there's some improvement in the electoral process. And for us as Yaga Africa, our work is to keep promoting that level of confidence, but holding the respective institutions to be a bit accountable in the work that they do. Now, you talked about Ekiti. Ekiti was a marked improvement if you compare that to Anambra last year, where in Ekiti we had early commencement of votes, and in fact the results were declared in the middle of the night before dawn the winners were declared. However, for Osun, we expect that it would not be such an easy elections compared to Ekiti, because Ekiti was a smaller state, or is a smaller state. Unlike Osun has 30 LGAs, it has more registered voters. And if you think around PVCs collected so far, about 1.4 million PVCs collected, which is over 76% of the registered voters. So it is going to also be a contentious elections. If you think about the players, you talked about the candidates. So a lot of these dynamics would be playing out. And what we have seen already is the fact that compared to Ekiti, we didn't have as early commencement across board. And we had reasonable percentages of polling units opening by 8:30. I think about 40% of, based on our data, opened by 8:30. But by 9:30 we had more opening. And one of the things we were hoping to see was to have a larger percentages of opening of polls, because once polls commence early, it means that the process would go a bit more faster and close earlier, and collation can commence when there is still daylight, because it's always good to collate when there is daylight. But we're still observing to see what happens, because for us is to have a broader sense across the LGAs on what is happening. But what are the things we're looking out for these elections beyond the proper logistics for administration? Is also the functionality of the bimodal voter accreditation system, the BVAS, because that is an important feature in our elections. And with the new Electoral Act, the BVAS is so fundamental that if it's not deployed, elections will be moved to the following day for those polling units, or may not even be conducted again if the registered voters in that polling unit are not, if the numbers are not sufficient to change the outcome of the elections. So you see that the BVAS is very important. In Ekiti, it functioned properly in 96% of polling units. The BVAS functioned properly in Ekiti. In 6% where it malfunctioned, it was replaced. We're hoping that in Osun, that there is better provisions for contingencies. So in case there's a part where there's some level of malfunctioning, that it is easily replaced, just so that a lot of voters would not be disenfranchised just because of an issue with the BVAS. But we're optimistic that if it worked in Ekiti, and if INEC improves on this work in Ekiti, that it could work better in Osun State.
All right, there's a report coming in, an update from the field. If we can get that, we will, also use that to spice up this discussion. Let me bring Ezenwawango in. You were just telling me you will still go to some other parts of the state shortly. I need to ask you, Cynthia made some, comments in terms of the success in Ekiti. But, just like she said, rightly, it's a much smaller space in terms of even the size of the state. Everything is Ekiti, something Ekiti, this Ekiti. You don't even know when you enter a new Ekiti sometimes because of how close those communities are. But here we are 30, LGAs, and if we look at that and we look at BVAS and the sheer number of voters, will BVAS be fast?
Well, I think we should be a little. We should approach the Osun election with cautious optimism, and the reason for that is that whether it is smaller or not, the deployment level here is also higher, and so if the deployment level is higher, the expectation also from officials, whether it's security, whether it's INEC, our expectation of them should be higher. Because Osun did not just happen. The 30 local governments were not created yesterday. All those who are involved in this process already know that there are bigger challenges that they need to confront in terms of election management and the rest of the issues. So what are our expectations? What do we want from them? We want polls to open early. And when we engaged the INEC Resident Electoral Commissioner yesterday, he did say that as at 6 p.m., that all the materials have gotten to the different local governments and we are moving. And the concomitant effect of that was that polls will open much more early this morning. And Cynthia was telling us as at 7:30 a.m., as at 8:30, relatively 40%, but it's gone up now to a more appreciable level. The expectation, therefore, is that we want to see a well-managed elections, and we don't want excuses. Don't give us the thing that the reason why Ekiti went well was because it is smaller and that this one is bigger. It doesn't add up. in terms of expectations and the level of deployment. The police, for instance, security agents, they are deploying 21,000. In Ekiti, they deployed 17,000. So it shows you that they understand the bigger implication of, what you need to put into the Osun election. The people are prepared. They've gone out to collect their PVCs. About 75% or so of voter collection had happened. That's about nearly 700 or so, 800 of the 1.4 million people that have collected their PVC. So our expectation is very high. We're looking to a more organized election. Like I said, INEC needs to be up, understanding that this election will reduce the kind of expectations that people have had in terms of on the undulating nature of their achievements. Coming from Anambra, not too good election, going to FCT, a near disaster, improved tremendously in Ekiti, and then that is why I said let's approach this with cautious optimism so that we don't become so patronizing to the point where our excitement will be dashed, our expectations will not come true. But it's early day. By the time it's getting to noon, we are in a place to make a good call around opening of polls, accreditation processes, and even the conduct of security agencies. That for me will be.
All right, just to look at the insignia on your shirt we are watching. So let's come to Cynthia very quickly. There are unique features of the elections. And that is, also, contained in the Electoral Act, the new Electoral Act. That's inclusiveness, especially for, people who may have felt sidelined in previous elections. We're talking about people like, with physical disabilities and all that. In your experience, especially from the Ekiti experience, were you able to see that play out? The use of Braille, the reading aid or whatever they put in there, were they properly deployed in Ekiti?
Yes, actually, we did observe deployment of assistive materials for persons living with disability. And one of the things we had observed was that it was present in the polling units where we observed. However, there's still the challenge around data, because if we still do not have accurate data on where the numbers of persons with disabilities in respective polling units. INEC just started tracking that data with the new CVR. So the previous registrations that had been done did not really contain that. So that's where there's still the missing link. Now we're expecting that for Osun to be a bit more intentional in the deployment. Why? Because you've tried Ekiti and you're learning from that, and you should improve in Osun. The INEC chair had said they also have about 35 ad hoc officials who are persons with disability to also show inclusiveness in elections administration. But it's beyond that, because one of the things we saw in other elections that for ad hoc officials, not all of them were properly briefed, or perhaps it's an issue of training on how to attend to persons with disability, even though they had the materials there. So we're hoping that was catered for in the training for Osun, so that they would also have a better approach to persons with disability. The other conversation for us in these elections is beyond just the provisions of the assistive materials for persons with disability, is also around issues around access, because one of the challenges that had been seen previously was around access. While INEC may have said, these structures are not constructed by INEC, but there are ways that they can also set up polling units that do not need people to climb over an elevated plane, just so that you also consider that at the point of setup, that you're looking for a more leveled ground, that whoever comes, regardless of disability, would be able to access it, because that was one of the things we had seen. And for some polling unit observers actually advised the officials, you shouldn't have set it up here, because that is why it's a challenge. Can you come on a plain ground, just so that you have people who need assistive help that can easily come and cast their votes without major stress, especially for those with physical disability on the wheelchair, and that would need help to cross over or climb over an elevator steps. So I think that is something that we need to that we're hoping to see improved. In Osun, one of the things Ize mentioned is the fact that for these elections, while we saw an improvement in Ekiti, we don't believe in dwelling in past glory, because every election should be an improvement of the previous. And this election is a litmus test ahead of the next general election. So this is a make or mark process. If INEC gets it right in these elections, it could also inspire confidence in voters across board that INEC is ready for the next elections, even though it's just one state. But this is the last elections that you have a lot of media and observer groups looking in and assessing and analyzing. So INEC needs to actually get things right. But beyond INEC is also the security agencies, because we saw what happened in Ekiti, vote buying, and we had interactions with the police, and sometimes they say, oh, we should tell the officers when we see that happening, but it's not our responsibility to go and be telling officers, oh, vote buying is happening here. That is why you're deployed in your numbers. And the Electoral Act criminalizes vote buying and vote selling. So we're expecting that in these elections, the police officials should give us data on how many persons were arrested for vote buying, how many persons have been prosecuted, because this is also the time we need to hold security accountable. In these elections, we don't want excuses from them, and we don't want them to expect observer groups to be doing or performing their functions on elections day. So beyond just INEC, there will be a lot of focus on the security agencies, how coordinated they are as a joint mission, the leading role the police plays, how it's provided leadership in these elections, or how it's to provide leadership in these elections, but also how strict they are in responding to electoral offenses. So vote buying and any other offense that would arise in these elections, because we want to actually believe that the investment monetary-wise that goes into security agencies for elections administration should begin to yield some results. Because at the end of the day, the question is, we spend a lot for elections. We want to begin to see value for money across board.
All right, so you're talking about monitoring and making sure that the deterrence, of course, for vote buying. I buy into that. Let's come to Ezenwa, and she raised a few things. But the last election, we saw, EFCC officials, coming out, just like she's, because a lot of people will say, the policemen will say they're really for security issues of violence and all that. But we've had an agency come out to probably try to see if they can monitor the process. Is it, are we expecting a more, in terms of intensity, of that drive, or perhaps in the years to this time around? And a lot of observations that were made during the elections was that they were wearing their red jacket and all that, and that would already warn the perpetrators that TFCC is around, and then they might just stick to their heels, and probably you do something different. And we understand that that also is in the offense. So what would be your comment at this time, especially to the agency that is deployed to perhaps tackle this?
Well, first, I think Cynthia called out just two of the stakeholders in the electoral process to behave themselves. I think there is a major actor that we over-respect when we come to conversations about elections. The political parties and their candidates have responsibility to, first and foremost, ensure that they understand the rule of this game and behave themselves. When you talk about vote buying, who perpetrates vote buying? The security agents and INEC are there to conduct elections, to maintain law and order. The buyers and the sellers are operatives and agents of the political parties. So if they are able to understand the implications, the diminishing value of vote buying in terms of even legitimacy, and holding government accountable, because there are two ways. You won the election. The Young Africa has a report that we tagged duly elected or duly purchased. So if you at the end of the day you announce as the winner, in your heart you'll be telling yourself that I purchased this victory. And then for the citizens, if you got into this transactional relationship, how boldly can you hold government accountable? So the politicians have a responsibility, not just to ensure that this process goes well, because they are the main provocateurs, if you understand what I mean. So we are not talking to them every time we say, oh, INEC, security agencies, and they are like, wow, we're doing well. So I am very very intentional about calling out the politicians. If they behave well, election will go well. In the days of snatching ballot box, who snatches ballot box? Who comes to pour ink in the box? Things have improved to that point now by INEC. INEC responds to our request for improvement at every point in time. If we say, oh, improve electoral integrity through the sanctity of the ballot, you see that they respond. They reposition the ballot paper in a way that the secrecy of the ballot is guaranteed. If we say, oh, people should not take their phones into they respond, but the politicians are the only ones who do not come into this conversation, about electoral and election and reforms. So we need to call them, we need to situate that properly. Now, having said that, the EFCC, in terms of number, do not have so that's why we have Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. The Interagency Committee on Election Security have a responsibility not just to maintain law and order, but to ensure that this vote trading within the precincts of, I think it's 300 meters within the precincts. The enlarged 300 meters now means that it is not just because the voting station is just about this room. 300 meters now puts it that even if it is, you are going to the pay point that the politicians stage just away from that point, the security agencies can sweep on those, because there is a car parked and everybody sees that car, people vote and go to a particular car. As a security agent, you are saying somebody whose protocol of engagement during election is to observe, that he should be the one telling you that there is a vehicle and you are there, you say you're maintaining, and then 21,000, including plainclothes agents who move about in that polling unit, will claim that they don't see it, and then we will be told that it's our responsibility as citizens. I don't earn salary as a security agent. Somebody is paid an allowance to come to Osun to exercise that function. Then in Ekiti, the bigger challenge is, okay, EFCC have arrested people, we are told, but what about the prosecution? What is the state of prosecution? Is anybody in court as we speak now? So it's not enough to do the drama of arrests. It is important that there are deterrents, that somebody is going to pay. Because if you commit a crime, and then more people, like we are in Osun now, if they know that people in Ekiti we are taken to court because of vote buying, you don't need any sermon. And we even have names. That's what I'm saying. You don't need any sermon. You don't need to sermonize to people. The simple thing is that I don't want to go to prison. And let me tell you, Fisayo, the challenge of electoral violence and crimes is that if you are arrested, the person who sent you will take off. He will just deny you immediately. It will be your family and yourselves that will be going to court to get yourself out of something that somebody pushed you into. And that's the big challenge that we have.
And we saw majorly young people coming out with their PVCs and the notes, currencies that they were given during the Ekiti election. That shows that they didn't even understand, that what you are doing is wrong and you could go to prison, because they were actually brandishing the money and the PVCs. Because we are deodorizing crime in our country. During elections, we deodorize every crime. If somebody is beaten on election day, it's supposed to be assault. Even if there is no electoral offenses, whatever, there is already a law that criminalizes beating somebody, causing bodily harm on somebody. So if you commit a crime, leave the Electoral Act. The law there are already specific laws through which the police or the prosecuting agency can deal with you. But because all of us feel that is a crime committed during election, and that's why I said is a deodorant now. I collected money, and so what? After all, politicians, the ones who went to Abuja, collected, and we now justify criminality. And you hear very respectable people even justifying that, security agents telling you that those who did it in Abuja, what did you people do? Is this little one that we are doing here? But if you steal 100 naira and somebody steals
1,000 naira. You are both criminals.
For those who took 5,000 in the last elections, 1,250 per year, because it gives us another 4 years before that opportunity can come on. When we get the reports of voting, we'll give it to you. Of course, you can see some pictures from our reporters on ground, and at least from what we are seeing, the turnout is it looks a bit, impressive in terms of even the early, numbers we saw. I don't know whether there's a link between you showed us some PVC collection, the rate, and you're talking about something close to 76%. Could there be a link with the fact that INEC did very well in the last election? Because a lot of people have said this issue of apathy could be because people feel, well, whoever will win, my vote will not really matter. But if they saw that what happened in Ekiti, was well conducted and all that, could that have been perhaps a link, I don't know, between what happened in Ekiti, or it's just a local thing in Osun State?
Well, I do not necessarily want to draw a connection with that, because Osun as a state is actually a politically conscious state. And if you think about voter turnout, even though it's not as great, but it had higher turnout than even presidential elections. The last 2018 elections, turnout was at 45%. The elections before that was about 53% turnout, voter turnout, which if you compare that to the national, presidential was 35%. So you can even say Osun was even better, had better turnout. So if you think about that and compare it to the level of CVR, so by the time we were tracking the new registration, Osun was one of the states that actually had high registration of voters even way before Ekiti. So as early as the end of the first quarter of CBR last year and early commencement this year, we saw Osun recording high registration. So what are all this telling us? That the state in itself is it's possibly a bit more politically active when it comes to people coming out to vote compared to some other states. The other conversation within for the Osun election is, and we're not always very quick to talk about turnout at in the mornings of elections, because you could see numbers, but by the time the calculation is on at the end and the collation rather is on at the end, it may not be as high as you think. Because most times you go around, you see numbers, but if you think about it, it's not in comparison to the total number registered, because more people were added to the register. Osun State has about 1.9 million registered voters, while about 1.4 had collected their PVC. So we're expecting close to 1.4 to turn out to vote. But we know we may not have as high as that number, but at least close to a million we should be able to come out to vote for these elections. So this is still very early to talk about turnout, but we've seen good numbers. I went through the parts I went through in Osogbo, very impressive numbers, but I would wait till later. But I think Osun in itself is quite, when it comes to turnout, it usually gives some positive figures.
All right, in terms of numbers, the Osun people have, made me to understand that the huge part is the Ijesha land. Not Ilesha itself alone, but the Ijesha land, the Ijesha speaking people. So we have a reporter there, that's Wasiu Rauf. Wasiu, can you tell us what's happening in Ijesha land? You are in Ilesha, if I heard me direct well. So Wasiu, can you give us an update? Back to Wasiu shortly. He's right there in Elisha. Maybe he's having a few challenges that will go back to him to tell us. We understand Elisha is quite key if you are going to get your numbers through. You have alluded to the fact that the gladiators, the interest is high, and we may even also see that in perhaps that.
Polling Unit 1, Temidire Primary School, Ward 5, Ishokun, in Ilesha West local government area of Osun State. About 1,188 prospective voters are expected to exercise their franchise. As you can see now, most of the prospective voters are now checking their names before joining the queue for accreditation. And at exactly 8:30 a.m., accreditation commenced concurrently with voting. Voters compose themselves peacefully on 2 lines formed, one for the elderly people, while the other one for the other age group. I have one of them with me, who's a physically challenged person, who would like to talk on the exercise. Your name?
My name is Faloyo Ikunola Folorunso.
So how long have you been voting in this particular polling unit?
30 years ago, from 30 years now, I'm voting here.
Okay. In the last election in Osun State, you used card reader for accreditation. But now, the INEC introduced another technology called bimodal voters accreditation system.
Yeah.
BVAS.
Yeah.
So what is your experience like compared to card reader?
This new model system is better than the first one we are using. It's very better than card reader. It's better. It's better.
Though the report ended abruptly, but I think the respondent was able to make his point comparing the two technologies. You've seen it. There was even a little demonstration at the headquarters in Abuja. And this machine is key, especially to the general elections. We saw in Anambra, the hue and cry and all that. And we've seen in Ekiti. What are your expectations, especially in terms of the features? What are the future challenges, and what has it been able to solve in our electoral system?
Yeah, one of the fundamental importance of this BVAS, the bimodal voter accreditation system, is its ability to limit the chances of multiple voting. So one of the things it seeks to achieve is, with the BVAS, every voter must be accredited and authenticated. So there's full biometric authentication. If you remember, the smart card reader would first verify your PVC, and then there's the fingerprint authentication. But the BVAS now, beyond the PVC, it also does the fingerprint authentication and the facials. So where your fingerprint biometric authentication fails, the facials is supposed to work, because now INEC also has on the BVAS our facial biometrics in the BVAS technology. So the idea is to ensure that voters are properly and duly accredited electronically. Now, the beauty of the BVAS is, beyond just accreditation, it also stores the data. And if you remember that in the new Electoral Act defines overvoting differently than before. So now, to determine overvoting, if the total number of votes is more than accredited voters, then
not registered.
We are not registered. Accredited voters, then the polling unit result will be cancelled, because that is overvoting and will be null and void, basically. So what this does is, it also, the BVAS captures accredited data, so it's in addition to the one on the register. So that way, it also plays that role in guiding the principle of overvoting. Beyond that, the same BVAS will be used to upload results on the INEC result portal. So while it accreditates and authenticates voters, and could also help us in determining overvoting, it would also be used to upload elections result from polling unit level to the elections INEC result portal. Now, the idea is, the new law also gives INEC the power to transmit results electronically. And one of the things we've been able to see, while it may not be the perfect envisioning of transmission people had, but now you can, wherever you are, go on the INEC result portal, create your login details, and you can download polling unit level results. And the idea is to also promote transparency, because one challenge we have seen in our elections previously is that the missing link had always been collation. A lot of people did not trust the collation process, because that was where a lot of manipulation and fraud would happen. Polling units, people are watching to see how the ballots are counted and completed on the results from EC8A. But when you move from polling unit to collation, things could happen along the line, which is why results start to change.
Why some candidates used to rent vehicles for their agents to follow the INEC
officials. Yeah. But now there is now an independent oversight system, that while the manual collation is ongoing, the electronic is also ongoing. So with the new elections guidelines, polling unit results are uploaded from the polling unit at the ward level is also done. So the idea is, it promotes transparency across board, from the polling unit level, and also to the point of results. And one of the things Young Africa would be doing in these elections, we did a test run in Ekiti, is to also we launched our election results analysis dashboard, which helps provide better information on the results as uploaded on the INEC result portal. And the goal for that dashboard is to let voters who may not have time to go and download results from the polling unit to follow the results as they are uploaded in near real time. So you can give voters access to information regarding elections results from the polling unit. So the beavers basically it's a very important feature of our elections now. And with the Electoral Act, one of the things we're beginning to see is that without the beavers, it's almost as good as no elections happen. So INEC has committed to ensure beavers is deployed across board, and we'll be tracking that. By noon, we'll have a sense on its level of functionality, because we'll be observing functionality also as our observers are in the field.
As you said that we should have cautious optimism. Also on the machine.
The challenge of the machine, whether smart card reader of beavers, has not really been the big issue. It has not been on the machines themselves. It's been on the handling, and the handling has a connection to the quality of training. So if you train and you don't substitute those who you trained and supplant them with untrained people, you get an outcome. So there's a human element to the functionality of it. That's the point. So the machines don't deliver themselves. Human beings make them deliver. If you train those human beings well, you get an outcome. So what is the difference now? When we engaged the commission after FCT elections vigorously around the failure, there was a outsourcing of blames and all of those things. It became very clear that they needed to do something about training. And we saw that happen in Ekiti, where people were trained. And engaging the INEC resident electoral commissioner, whereas they normally do 2 weeks training before, they did 12 weeks in Osun. So it's now for us to be able to say that is inspiring, that is confidence building, that they were able to scale. They did a few weeks of the training and then 4 weeks of manual, which is heartwarming. But that now needs to reflect in the outcomes that we're going to see. But I want to underscore the fact that the big challenge is if you have unscrupulous EOs, electoral officials, who will remove trained people, then you have people who cannot include the code. I mean, who cannot put in the right code and all of those things, and then it creates problem. But if our data is anything to go by with the voting right now, it means that the beavers are working. You understand? It means that the beavers are functioning, because once the beavers don't work, the reporters you have in the field now will be shouting that the lines are not moving and people are stranded, and then tension is created. So, but like I said, it's still a bit early. I deliberately maintain this cautious engagement with the process. As an enthusiast of a few years now, I can tell you that I come into elections expecting that things will work well, but I'm not as patronizing as I used to be before. I want to be able to say it has worked well based on the evidence that is available on the ground.
All right, when you want to start a project, when we did a little bit of that, you have your basis, so hypothesis and all that. And then you perhaps start from, you have some indicators to show, okay, this is where we are going, some red flags. Normally, what do you look out for in elections of this size to show that, oh, yes, we can be optimistic? No, we may be a bit cautious the way the trends we're seeing.
Well, I think for observer groups because one of the things we track beyond the pre-election observation, when it comes to making projections around elections day management, as we begin as early as tracking deployment of non-sensitive materials, the deployment of sensitive materials. So last week we had gone to different local government to ensure, because as at last week, non-sensitive materials were supposed to be present at the INEC LGA offices, and we have confirmed that the materials were there. We also tracked training of ad hoc officials. Was it ongoing? What was it like? Were people were they at the centers they were supposed to be at? But closer to the elections, there are other things we look out for with respect to deployment of the sensitive materials. So movement to the racks, activation of the racks are very important because officials and personnel move from the racks to the polling unit. The racks, the registration area centers, are closer to the polling units, and we know that yesterday there was a slower activation of the racks compared to Ekiti. Probably INEC could provide more information on why that happened, but a lot of the racks were not activated early enough, which was why we were not surprised when we did not have as much polling units opening by 8:30. So that is also something we track.
All right, I understand that Claire is standing by. Claire has just seen the sister, Cynthia. So Claire wants to ask a question. One is also here. Claire.
I'm sitting already, Fisayo. But I'm glad to see Ezenwa and Cynthia Mbamalu, happy, the usual frustration, emotion. I don't see that on your faces. So, and positive comments coming from both of you. Cautious optimism, yes, and of course, positive turnout, okay. But let's look at the issue of election offenses and the penalties. We will have that on our screen soon. Of course, we have the procedures clearly written out in the Electoral Act, and INEC has also made that clear. But you were calling, that's a coalition of civil societies, you're calling for joint action. But INEC says, see, we don't have the powers to prosecute. So how can there be a joint action? How can all the stakeholders together take action against those who will want to thwart, the conduct of this election? What roles are you going to play?
I think first there is we shouldn't mix up conversation when it comes to the elections. Why? And everyone had mentioned it. Crimes that happen within elections, there's nothing that absolves them from being crimes. They are still crimes, right? And we have institutions present to take the respective roads. Why do we deploy the police? That if there are criminal activities, if there are thugs trying to create mayhem, that they are duly arrested. Now, I do not understand why this gets a bit difficult for institutions to understand. The calling for joint engagement is because for elections, we have the interagency, the consultative committee on election security that has INEC and several security agencies as members in that particular consultative committee. Now, the idea is why we talk of coordination is you understand where you're deploying, how many people you're deploying, and how we ensure that we're coordinating our deployment across board. But you also know your rules of engagement, that you are fully briefed on what offenses are, regardless of what the Electoral Act says. You already know as institutions what crimes are. You know when individuals cause a mayhem that they're supposed to be arrested. So there is, honestly, I always worry and wonder why it seems to be difficult. And when it comes to elections, we're looking for new definitions of what crimes and offenses are. We already know what is wrong, and who should make arrest, can't make arrest. When we talk of votes buying, most of the arguments before was that, there was no clarity around votes buying in the Electoral Act. The new Electoral Act provides for 12 months imprisonment and a fine. When there is a sanction with imprisonment, it already means it's a criminal offense, it's not a civil conversation anymore. So why do we still need to provide clarity to respective institutions to take action? So I do not really think this is a matter for argument. All we want to say as observer groups is that institutions understand that when laws are made, you look at the laws and say, okay, which applies to me? Where do I need to activate my role as a security agency, and how can I take action? Ordinarily, INEC had said we can't prosecute electoral offenders because there's a lot of that. And we understand all of that bargain, but before we get an electoral offences commission, should we now sit back and say, let's not deal with offences because we don't have an electoral offences commission and INEC is overburdened, when we know that crime is still crime, regardless of whether it's committed within elections, and that institutions that operate should perform their roles because they are security agencies. So I honestly do not see a justification in this argument. If people want to work, they would work. When the law is made, you look at the law, you find out where you need to step in, and you step in as an institution. You're not just here to watch people vote. You're here to perform a fundamental function of maintaining law and order.
You are here to watch people vote, though.
No, we are here to watch people vote.
See, we're here. There's something called the Interagency Consultative Committee on Election Security. Now, the composition is the police is the lead agency in that committee. The army is there, NDLEA, NSDC, customs, immigration. All of these people ordinarily have a role. So they are now playing that role in election. So if your name is NDLEA, you have to watch out for those who are using substances and who, through the use of that substance, can become a danger to the electoral process. So Mr. NDLEA is waiting for Electoral Offences Commission. MSDC, part of your job is to protect government institutions, buildings, and all of those things. If there is an attack on INEC or facility or anything, NSDC says, oh, they've not set up Electoral Offences Commission. Immigration, you have to ensure that foreigners do not use our porous borders and make influx. Osun is bordered with Oyo that has, access to that is also a boundary state through Shaki and the rest of them, and all of those areas. So everyone who is in that interagency consultative election security has a role that it is on that basis that you now become a member of that access. So, like I said, and I've continued to use that word, until we make it clear that crime is crime. I've made this point, Fisayo, I think even on one of your programs. If you kill somebody on Christmas Day, it is not called Christmas murder. If somebody is stabbed on Ileya Day, it's not called Ileya stabbing. Why do we then make election? It is because already we are wired to think that crimes committed during election have new coloration, have a different coloration. So, Claire, for the question that you are asking, what are we doing? What do we need to do? Our remit of our engagement is advocacy. Calling out these people, do your job. Do your job. Nigeria is a place where we hoist regime of excuses at every point in time. Why is this not happening? There is something to explain why it has not happened. We know we don't want to commit, because I told you when we started that we respect the politicians. The political class is the most respected class in Nigeria, that to the point that we don't call them out. And there is a basis for that, because election has become a festival. It's a bazaar for a lot of people. NDLEA is committing people from all around this country to come to Osun, pay allowances, and there's no value for money. And we just sit down and say, because after the election, 21,000 people have been deployed. After Osun has gone, nobody comes to say, did you really deploy 21,000? If you deploy 21,000, what is the value for money? How many arrests did you make? That follow-up thing is not just the responsibility of civil society, it's the media. But if you do that, rather than take it that you are doing a patriotic job, they say, oh, you are antagonizing us. You are always antagonizing us. So we already have hoisted all the regime of excuses to explain away why we can't do what we are paid to do.
Claire. Thank you, Fisayo. Thank you, Ezenwa and Cynthia, for your response. While you were talking, Dr. Suleiman Barnabas here with me in the studio, just chipped in to Fisayo's comment about crime being crime. He says crime is just an ideal. Vote buying, giving money during elections is just a political culture. But regardless of that, I'd just like you to talk to us about the demography of the voters for this election. I was listening into the response of the INEC rec in Osun some days ago, and he was saying that despite the fact that 70% of those who registered and collected their PVCs is made up of students who, as we know, are at home, that will not impact on the outcome of this election. Ezenwa and Cynthia, what do you think?
Understand what that question is.
She was making allusion to what the President Electoral Commissioner said, that there are some, a percentage of the voters are tertiary institution students that are not in school at this time. In spite of that it will not make a marked difference in the outcome of the election.
Well, it's there is no clear-cut response to this, and because to be able to make this analysis, you need to have data on how many students registered are not Osun residents, right? Because some of these institutions are in Osun, and Osun has both the federal, the state, and then they have the other the institutions that are not necessarily part of the strike, like part of the ongoing
the public universities.
So they have the private, they have the polytechnics, they have other tertiary institutions. So if you think about students, it's the gamut of all students across different institutions, which is why it may not necessarily impact on turnout, because we do believe that some of the students from the public institutions are residents in Osun and they would be voting in Osun, while there are other students who are not students in public institutions who can still vote. So it may not necessarily impact on that. In almost every state, we've seen that youth voters are a larger percentage of the registered voters.
All right, let me just cut in there. We understand that our reporter Bolaji Akim in Iragwiji, where the governor is from, is on the phone now. Bolaji, can you give us an update? Maybe Bolaji can reinitiate the call and tell us exactly what's happening in your area. And we also have a report going in the direction to also get the candidates of most of the parties. Some are also on the way to air there. I'm sure that they're there ready to see their comments as well. Having been part of the process. Electoral offenses. Let's look at the main.
Please, before you go, there is a comment that Claire made about political culture. I think that is dangerous. See,
he was talking about it, I guess.
Yes, but you see, that is what enhances this impunity. Oh, it's a culture. What is a culture? If a culture does not serve public good, then that culture needs to be put away.
All right, Larry, you are on the field. Perhaps what you would like to tell us could also help our discussion now. What is happening in your area? Where are you exactly? Tell us exactly what is happening there, and is the process progressing?
People are lining up, doing the registration. Like the last word that I left is what is happening here. When you register, you vote. It's a simultaneous exercise. I have with me here Honorable Jagbe, a community leader. Please come forward. A community leader here in the North local government. He has just done a civic exercise. I want you to give me an impression. What the impression of the exercise since it started?
Well, thank you so much. We have been here early morning since 8 o'clock, and the voting commenced shortly thereafter. We could see that fact is speaking for itself. Today we are orderly here. This the North local government Ward 2. There are about 3 or 4 polling units within this vicinity. People are conducting themselves very serious and a orderly manner, and the security here is also impressive. Everybody are going on normally, line up, casting their vote, immediately going back to their respective houses. We have just started. We still have some hours to go. And we could see that the men of security are fully on ground here. We have the...
Honorable Ajagbe, sorry to cut you short. I have very limited time. What do you think about the people that came out? Are you expecting this much, or you are expecting much more?
Well, we believe that people will still come out. It's earlier now to judge. People are coming out, and they were highly impressive that the security arrangement is orderly. The INEC had done a fantastic job. Coupled with the security arrangement, we could see the men of civil defense, we see the police, we see the EFCC monitoring people so that there won't be anything like food buying, these and all those things.
Sorry to cut you short again. I want to ask this question before I let you go. What do you think about the INEC officials? Did they come to time here in this ward too?
They arrive in time here. I could see there's no delay at all. And if INEC will maintain this in all other places, we will be having a very impressive turnout and impressive conduct of this exercise today. So that at the end of the day, we give the INEC a good assessment of a rancor-free exercise.
Thank you, Honorable Ajagbe. I will come back to you. Now, Fisayo, let us quickly do something. It may look a little bit funny. I want to go to where the registration is. Me and my cameraman, we move to where the registration is taking place. Follow me. Excuse me, Honorable. Me and my camera will go to where the registration is taking place so that you can see, we'll have a first-hand experience of what is going on. The election and the registration is going on simultaneously. Now the people are queuing up. They are doing their registration on the beavers. They are doing their accreditation immediately. They are doing their accreditation and immediately they are going to vote. You can see, you can have a first-hand experience. That's a person that just finished accreditation and is going to perform his civic duties. And here too, there are special attention for people with special needs and elderly people. They are given special attention. I asked around about any elderly people when I first came around. They said they are the first people that were given special attention, and some of them have gone home. And that is what is happening right now in Fisayo.
We'll still come back to you. Don't just stay there in Eden North. I can see that even your cap looks like the cap of the person you first interviewed. So just like your name, Beleyi, it seems as if you are, an indigent. But anyway, let's talk to Bolaji Akim, who is back on the line from Iragbiji. Having gone to Ede, we must also try and see what's happening also in Iragbiji. So Bolaji Akim, can you give us a situation update?
Accreditation and voting is going on concurrently with the use of a Dubas machine. And I want to understand that the government century now, the government is just getting to the polling unit now. It's on the queue. It's moving to get accredited. So there's a large work, there's a lot of voters, and everything is going on smoothly at this particular polling unit in Ward 1, Unit 2 in the Iragbiji, beautiful local government area of the state.
Thank you very much, Bolaji Akim from Iragbiji. We would also be expecting, updates from you and pictures from there as well. And when we see the candidates, all right, let's also go to Ilesha. And when you talk about Ilesha, you talk about the former governor of the state and now Minister of Interior, Ogbeni Rauf Aregbesola. I understand it's also on a queue there. Let's talk to Rauf. Wasiu Rauf out there. Wasiu, what do you have for us?
This is another polling unit in Ilesha West, Unit 1, Ward 1, Idiroko, Itakogun. About 560 prospective voters will be performing their civic responsibility. As you can see now, the prospective voters are on the queue to perform their franchise. And I have with me one of the observers from Police Service Commission. Your name, sir?
My name is Ademola Adetunbi from Police Service Commission Abuja, and I'm an observer. Yeah.
How many units? How many polling units have you gone around?
So far, we have visited 7 polling units in Ilesha East.
So, what is your assessment about this polling unit?
So far, there's enough of security personnel around. There's not been any chaos or any crime so far. So we pray that it should maintain this same status quo till the end of the exercise. Yes.
And that is the situation in this particular polling unit. I will keep you posted as I move to another polling unit. All
right, Wasil, was me to understand that you also had the minister there. But once you have him, let us also know. I can see an impressive, at least from where you, the visuals you gave us, and we expect some volume of votes from the Jesha land, as it is called there. So our reporters are scattered around the states, and we'll be expecting their reports to be coming in, a lot with more frequencies soon, since they're already on ground to let us know exactly what is happening. Ife Tedo and Ife area, which we understand you will soon be looking at once we round off this session, played a key role last time. What were the issues at that time? And when you go now, what will you be looking out for?
Well, I think that first is a process watching. Go to see how the voting is going on, the accreditation is going on, and then look at the geography and the sociology of the environment, and see what I can pick out from that, to be able to engage. I know that there is the Ife Modakeke thing. I'm interested in it as an election enthusiast. I want to see how that crisis of those period, whether it still has any influence in how they vote. I understand that the collation will be taking place in Osogbo here, so I want to see whether that tension is still there. But beyond that we're spreading ourselves. Members of the working group of the Watching the Vote project, we're all here. We've shared ourselves to different, so that we can have a comprehensive view of what the election is in different parts of the state. I know that it used to be some kind of battleground, if you want to use that word, but whatever it is, I'm like I said, I think the climate is different now. In 2018, there was a lot of attention there. All the gladiators were going to Ife to go, and it almost looked like a pilgrimage then. But that's not happening now. So it means that the environment and the conditions are changing.
I was almost getting excited. I thought you were going there to settle the quarrel finally. But if that is not the case, we are still excited you are going. It could also be a little bit of. And so if we have the signals from soon, then we understand that we will get it, because the governor is on queue to cast his vote. Our reporter is Adelabu Arewa. Once that is ready, we'll give you live pictures of that process. And of course, Lanley, once we get that ready, of course, Bode is likely to reach us via phone, and then we'll also try and get Lanley Gbele to get us, the candidates from the other parties as well in the course of this broadcast. Claire, you are eager to perhaps make one or two interventions?
Precisely, Fisayo. Just to bring in my guests here in the studio who would also want to react to the issue of political culture. Ezenwa, alluded to it earlier on. But while we were speaking, Dr. Adoyi Matthew Omale, political science and international affairs analyst, joined in our discussion here in Abuja. So, but let me first of all bring in Dr. Suleiman Barnabas, who actually. Whose words actually I repeated. Dr. Barnabas.
Yeah, thank you very much. Vote buying is part of our political culture. Is it good? No. Criminal. Because the Electoral Act and other laws have actually criminalized it. But it's a reality in our politics. Governors are bought to even support candidates. Delegates have to be paid money for them to vote in our primaries. So as terrible as vote buying is, do you expect a policeman to make an arrest on the basis of vote buying when what we know is that an average policeman takes bribe? So if our governors who have a lot of money at their disposal still take money from presidential candidates so as to support them, it tells you how terrible that culture is and how entrenched it is in our political, situation. I am not justifying it, but I am saying, as a sociologist, there's a difference between an ideal culture, what the law is saying, and the real culture. And the fact is that cultures are stronger than laws. And that explains why the policeman or the EFCC may find it difficult to make an arrest or even prosecute. Even when they tell you that they've arrested people who were doing vote buying, it's just for you to hear it. How many people have been prosecuted? Because our cultures support it. And because of that, we see governors do it, senators do it. So is it the common man who is taking 5,000, 2,000 that you are saying they should arrest? And the governor who takes $5 million, $2 million?
So what's the sociological way out?
It is to educate our people, the elites, the common man, to change that value, because it has to do with values. When people value money above truth, when people value money above, common benefits, these are the kind of things you experience. We have seen our politicians even use money to boast about how they will use money to win elections. So those that will be arrested are the poor people in our societies.
Dr. Male, do you agree?
Well, the issue of vote buying is a very, very contentious issue. Vote buying in itself, like Dr. Suleiman said, is very bad. We are all in agreement that vote buying is bad. But on the issue of political culture, you see, every society has the way it carries out its political activities. Therefore, over time, when something begins to happen over a long period of time, then it could be said to be the culture or the way of people doing things. That is what culture basically is. The Americans have their culture. The British have their own culture, political culture, and various societies have their various political culture. Now, this vote buying has become one of the sore points of our political culture, as Ezenwa, my friend Ezenwa, alluded to. It's a very, very despicable way of carrying out democratic practice in our climate. However, vote buying is not restricted to the money shared on election day. I want to make that point. Vote buying includes the Maggi that is being shared to women during campaigns. Vote buying is the wrapper that is being given to induce people to support a political party. The issue of primaries and campaigns. So one of the areas I would love civil society and all of us to work on is we have to set a standard, an acceptable standard, which we have to ensure that everybody buys in, so that it becomes the standard norms, the standard values in which we as a people, we as Nigerians, we see in our political culture, in our political atmosphere, so that because he is a political sociologist, I'm a political scientist, and probably Ezenwa is a civil society person. So by the time you have these three views. Nobody is justifying vote buying. But you see, when you begin to rigidly talk about security agencies arresting everybody, the whole prisons will be full because everybody.
And we are talking about decongesting the prison.
Well,
All the political parties are guilty. It's not that it's just one political party that is doing it. Even the people, the voters, are also guilty because they will be scavenging and looking for.
But we must curb it. But we must. It
No,
must
no, no.
be curbed.
It
So
must
how
be.
do-
It must be curbed.
Are you saying when they are apprehended at the place of election, at the point of election, you know, they should? I mean, what
You see,
should be
the politician
penalty?
comes. The politician comes and says, "Who is the head of this police unit?" And then the whoever is comes and say, "Okay, I want to give you people welfare." He calls it welfare, and he drops 1 million naira. You won't call that vote buying because policeman is not going to vote, but you have bought something. Favor maybe
to look the other way.
You understand?
When
Yes, it's like you see, cultures are so strong that laws become useless before culture. It's like spraying. The senators who passed the law that spraying is illegal. Anywhere
You spray money at parties.
Yes, anywhere they go, they spray the money. The policeman will be sprayed and it collects money too.
No, but we must
because
not,
of the
we must,
values
we
that
must
they have.
not leave this conversation
National orientation,
without.
National Orientation Agency must do a thorough job. Let's even forget about these politicians who will soon die and leave the system, our age and all. Let them go reach out to the young people and begin to change their values. Let them know what they want. What will 5,000 do for you in 4 years? What will 10,000 do for you in 4 years? But the problem again is the politicians. Our politicians are the politicians. Our politicians who know that one of the ways to win election in this country is the money you spend.
Dr. Barnabas, let me put you on hold. We hear our correspondent on Labode Arewa is standing by in Oshogbo. I guess that's where they come. Okay, Fisayo, take it from here.
Thank you. Bode Arewa, I understand you are in Iragwiji at the moment. Bode, please can you give us an update, especially the candidates of the ruling APC here and the governor of Osun State?
Without that insisting of is not to allow him to conclude to cast ballot as yet. So his wife, the first lady, is about to cast her own ballot too. Why the governor wait for his wife to cast the ballot first of all before he will perform his civic responsibility?
Tell us about the polling unit where you are, apart from while you're waiting for the candidate. What in terms of when the polls opened and general mood of the place at the moment?
Okay. Yes. Huh?
Go. I said, can you tell us a little about where you are and, voting, the activities generally at this time, apart from the governor's, participation as well? Just tell us about the area itself and perhaps even the numbers that you're seeing.
What? Well, the governor is about to casting his ballots. Yes. And the governor is about to cast his ballots. Yes, it's just the crowd. And it's being shielded by the security agency. And the crowd is strong. The crowd is here to allow him to do that. Yes.
All right, thank you, Bode. I understand you are having a few challenges with your system there. So once we get you clearly, we would come. Just in this, during this session now, especially when it got to the heated issues of vote buying and, some of your comments, some of the classes I failed to attend in the university, criminology, sociology, and even because we need to appeal to the Almighty because it's an ingrained culture now, we may also study a bit of theology, just in terms of these issues of election offenses and, trying to, have some form of deterrent and reducing the incidences. Cynthia, you might want to say a few words, perhaps reacting to some of the positions that were taken in Abuja, and perhaps give us just a little bit of your take on all this, because those who are passing through, according to what one of the panelists was saying, is that it seems as if a sleep service in terms of some of these things, because you simply look for the poor and downtrodden who need some of these things, instead of letting it start from the very top and then cascading downwards.
Well, I think what is important is the Electoral Act has different levels of liability, or places different levels of liability. And there is the first part, if you look at the section, because that section looks at bribery and corrupt practices or conspiracy in the electoral process. And it talks about people inducing or attempting to induce or giving, so it's also about those who are buying the vote. Now, I can understand different arguments around the sociology and what have you and what not. But I think what is important is that when a law exists, our responsibility is to get the respective authorities to enforce the laws. Now, the challenge within the Nigerian system is that over time we learn to make excuses and justify criminality and malpractices, because we believe that we see that it is easier to make that excuse, and most times we begin to theorize around issues. Now, vote buying is not just a Nigerian phenomenon. Let's just be clear. In fact, vote buying was part of the American electoral system before. Once upon a time, it was a thing, but it took commitment of people to get the system to work. In different countries too, you go within there are different levels of voter inducement, because vote buying is just a manifestation of elections. It extends to voter inducement that even goes on during the campaigns, where gift items and what have you are given out. Now, what we need to understand is that within these 23 years of democracy, the trend of vote buying it became worse subsequently. That there was once upon a time, the level of malpractice was that individuals used monies to bribe one or two persons to change the outcome of the elections. But when the process started getting a bit more credible and transparent, and it was more difficult for one person to change that, the money started to come to the polling unit level, which is where we started seeing more incidences of vote buying. So why we did the report in Ekiti was that Ekiti 2018 seemed to have been that was the climax of it all, because it started in Ondo, and then the Ekiti, because that was when we did the duly purchased or duly elected report. So what we're beginning to see is that when they say why I wouldn't fall into the argument of political culture, is that when culture in itself is a way of life of a group of people, right? But it's not necessarily, this is not a culture that became a way of life. It is a culture that is based, this is a practice that is influenced by political actors who look for new ways to manipulate the system or undermine the value of the vote. Because the people bringing out the money are the political actors, the candidates, and the political parties. And why do they need to get the monies to the hands of voters? It's because votes started to count. And when votes started to count, they realized that they needed to change their strategy, which is why we must not treat this with kid glove. We need to engage this frontally and hold people accountable. The law is clear. Those who are going out to make the inducement, let us start with arresting them first. Let's say you cannot arrest everyone who collects 5,000, but there are the individuals who go out to book. There is a section clearly for those who are going out to induce or trying to influence people by giving them money. So it is clear. So can we begin with arresting those people? And now can we hold the security officials accountable? Because if we don't take this step and treat this with the seriousness that it deserves, this culture would prolong and exist longer than it ought to, or this practice, because I'm not yet going to call it a culture. Yes, I don't want to call it a culture because I do not see this as a culture, because we can tell when it started and why it started, and we can actually understand why it exists now. And we know that if we change certain things within the configuration of how elections is administered and managed, that we can address that. So there's a solution to it that we need to engage frontally. But if we start to make excuses and justify that, Nigerians, the people we are hoping will change their minds, would also begin to fall into the argument of these excuses. We don't want people to get comfortable with that. And what data is showing us is that people are already saying no to votes buying. We've seen videos of people, women, elderly people in the community saying no. If it were a culture, you wouldn't have voters who are even seen as the poor, the lower class, saying no to the monies. So if it were a culture, everyone would be comfortable with it. But the reason we're talking about it is because we can tell that this is a practice that we need to deal with. And until we begin to engage that, we have a consensus that this is wrong, and we need to get institutions to work. When police don't make arrests, let us hold them accountable. When security agencies do not make arrests, let us hold them accountable. Because if we don't, then this practice would be and would remain in our system. But we can change it. The idea is that 23 years of democracy is still young, but we are getting somewhere, and we need to do what we can to get it to that level we need to get the democracy to. So I wouldn't go into all the theories around it, because for me, sometimes when we theorize, we undermine the value of the process in itself. And then we begin to create justifications that the politicians are easily willing to also benefit from, because they would watch this and say, okay, you see, it is part of the political culture. But we don't want that to be the message today.
All right, I know you guys are eager to quickly go and watch the vote. Nigerians have been watching you. We expect you also to watch the vote very shortly. Wango and Cynthia Mbamalu. Let me let you make your final comments for this session, because I expect that when you come back from Ife, you might want to also help us with one or two reports of what is happening. Absolutely. Where you're going even is closer to the Ondo State border of Osun State. So we'll be expecting you to give us some evaluation at the end of your movement, and probably getting one or two of our guests in as well. So let's just wrap up this week. Give us a few tips in terms of what to be expecting. Now we are moving towards 11. This is 11 o'clock already. We should be seeing more intensity in terms of people coming out, participating, and then if everything goes well, I think it's still 2 o'clock. That's 2:30 now that the votes will end. So what are your expectations? And then
my expectation is that Osun election is going to be history in another few hours. We'll now be analyzing that it happened and how it happened. And that has started already. Fisayo, we were in the place where we used to kill twins as a culture. Any culture that does not serve public good, even if it is, needs to be eliminated. And at that point, it needs to be made. You cannot defend crime because there are other people who commit a crime. You can't say if an armed robber if somebody snatches your phone, you don't say, oh, there are other phone robbers around. They have not been arrested. The law is very clear. 300 meters within the precincts of the polling unit. If you do trading there, the law does not say if you give somebody Maggie in your house. Cynthia is a lawyer. Is that what the law says? If you give, you are extending a conversation that does not come into this is within the precincts of the polling unit area. And we have seen that Diboko said there. Dehumanizing the citizen. And that's the point that we're making. And it's not about sociology or anthropology or all of those things. It does not, at this point, give the kind of message that we want to send out to our citizens. That legitimacy question, when you buy the vote, can you beat your chest and say, I want this election? When you sell your vote, can you hold government accountable? That is our message. So to say, oh, is our culture is a culture because people in Abuja collected money, they were not arrested, then the poor. At the end of the day, isn't it the poor? Must the poor go to prison? Can't the poor also learn that they are not arresting the rich? So let me also stay away because it is me they are going to use as scapegoat. So the poor must learn that if rain beats a rat and a lizard, it will dry on the lizard, it will not dry on the cat.
All right, let's quickly take this one. We understand that there's a report from Ikire, from our reporter there, Adams. Quickly, Adams, give us the situation report from Ikire. They have some issue with the pictures, coming in from there. So we'll probably go back to Ikire. But we'll soon also link with our colleagues in Abuja. It seems, the lectures continue. But very quickly before Ezenwa goes, there's a question for Ezenwa Wago. Claire.
Your Fisayo. It's not actually from me. It's actually the question will come from my two guests here in the studio, and because as everyone said, well, alluded to the fact that if you give Maggie or things like that, I don't know if that's what he's saying. Yeah. It's not vote buying. So what is vote buying?
Well, I think that my brother and sister there still need to get the clarification from my side. I am not saying that anything justifies paying for votes. Absolutely wrong. I am only trying to explain that the reason why it's difficult for prosecution to happen is because it is seen that vote buying is a culture that the players have accepted. And that for that to change, then there has to be a change in the values. I am as angry as Ezenwa is against those who buy and sell votes. Absolutely wrong. I have voted separately. I have never taken a kobo, and I will never take a kobo.
It's giving Maggie vote buying.
Trade by barter. Is that not trade? It's also wrong. That's why you see that some people who go for as observers, some people, governors entice them. They may not call it vote buying. They may call it welfare. They may call it, all kind of things, names that public they call relations. All these things. Could be public relations. They give hotels. They pay for the hotel.
But some of these things you've mentioned are not captured in the Electoral Act as such.
But you should know that it's beyond the Electoral Act. Just like they said, there are other laws.
No, like Eze once said, if I heard it very well, he said within 300 meters radius. Now, if a politician decides to commit vote buying outside 300 meters radius, you go to 400 meters from the polling booth,
or 320,
or 310 meters from the polling booth, and then you perpetrate the vote buying at that stage. I think what we should be talking about is vote buying is vote buying, and whether it is done at the vicinity, whether it's done within whatever radius in government house, whether it's done in residential buildings or wherever hotels. It is done, or hotels, wherever it's been done. Because there was an interesting thing about this vote buying. In the last primaries in Kaduna State, Shehu Sani alleged that he scored only 1 or 2 votes, and then 3 votes, and then when he put on his social media handle that all those who voted for him, he has some package for them, and he got over 300 people saying that they actually voted for him just because maybe now he's about to compensate maybe the few people that voted for him. There was also a video that trended on the social media about somebody after the primaries who requested for people to return the money
And
that
they were carrying policemen to go and arrest
yes,
those
and
people.
then the man sat down, people were returning the money they collected. There was a senator from Kwara State who even no, from Kogi State, I think smarter than me, I read on social media, who said that all the people who collected money from him and voted against it, he has forgiven them. You know, so this trend of events, that is what we are saying. The politicians must be told clearly that it should not be business as usual. They market women. There are even people that believe that trader money and some of these things are indirect way of voter inducement. Because no, there are people.
But it's outside the election.
Yes, no, it's
That
that is why we are saying that. That is why we are saying that. That is why we are saying that. There are various ways, just like the Cynthia said, even in the advanced countries, there are various forms of vote buying. Even in other climes, we have seen it in different form. So we really need to sit down and define this. I think vote buying is not just about money being exchanged on the days of election. That is just the point that we're
all right, and we are really, taking time to talk about this because these are two issues that of concern that observers and of course the monitors have raised: the issue of vote buying, that is money politics, and issue of course of the functionality of the beavers. Fisayo, take it off here.
Claire, we will still come back to you very shortly because I understand this and why it should be on his way to the the axis of the state, talking about Ife and Ifetedo and Modakeke areas of the state. If you want to say a final word before we let you go, Cynthia as well.
It's just to say that we're dealing with context, and context is very important, because if you take out context, then you externalize a conversation and ridicule it. That's the point that I want to make. In the issue of voter inducement, if you begin to say, when a governor constructs a road during elections, you can also say that is voter inducement, but he has a responsibility to construct roads. So you don't externalize that conversation in a way that it now gives comfort to perpetrators of, electoral crime. An electoral crime has where it is documented as to what today is electoral crime. There is an opportunity for Omale and my friend there to do advocacy to extend voter inducement to mean that if you do trader money, that it is, if government gives citizens money 6 months to election to do business, that it is voter inducement. That is not yet captured in the law. And that's why I talk about context. We are dealing with Osun now. In the polling 3,000 so polling units, we don't want anybody to come there. And no politician comes to the polling unit to give anybody money. What happens is that there's a syndicate. The syndicate, their party agents working with those syndicates, and sometimes with security agencies, perpetrate this around the vicinity. But we have assurance from the DIG that will not happen in Osun. And our work is to go out there and see whether it's happening. And if it's happening, what is the security agencies doing to make sure that doesn't continue?
All right, thank you very much for your intervention. Before you go to Modakeke, there's a reporter of ours who is also waiting for you there. Let him give us a situation report so that we use that to also excuse us and one.
This is Ife East Area Office, Port Hall, Modakeke, where voters are waiting patiently for accreditation and voting exercise.
My name is Engineer Joseph Uwale.
What do you have to say about the accreditation and voting exercise here in Modakeke?
In fact, to God be the glory and the glory of our government in power at this present time, because it's so obvious that Nigeria is taking a new step. In fact, the accreditation and the voting going on right now is a real transformation for Nigeria. And
what about the electoral materials provided by INEC?
They have been here since yesterday evening, and everything was sorted out so good. And this morning, as as early as 8 o'clock, everything is already at the polling unit. And everybody is voting, everything is peaceful, no rowdy thing, everything is okay.
tó ó máa dé parí nsìn. All right, we were just chatting in the studio, and we I was just talking to one of our colleagues who came in here, and we just finished his voting and is joining me before that ended. And of course, our guest came in, and that's Mr. Ayologun. Thank you very much for coming on the show. You have voted already. Tell us about the process.
Well, so far so good. From Isalero, where I voted at precisely St. Francis Primary School. It's one thing is evident that contrary to insinuations that there was going to be photo party in this election, I was particularly impressed by the fact that there was a large turnout of voters, especially among the young people. What I witnessed at that polling unit is a situation whereby young people, contrary to what we witnessed in 2018 election, came all out to vote. And I noticed that from conversations and interactions, there were a lot of first-time voters that voted in this election, which is the proof that young people are beginning to understand the need to hold the future tight by ensuring that they elect a leader that will represent their thoughts, their thinking, that will represent the future that they crave for. This, for me, is impressive. And a big kudos to HINEC, because as early as 7:30, the polling unit was already set up. The youth corps members were on site. The INEC officials were on site. The security officials were on site, which made the process almost seamless. And it's an improvement for me beyond what we saw in 2018. And I hope that this will be another template for us to have a more credible election in 2023.
In terms of timing, when the people come on very quickly,
it's simultaneous.
No, what I'm saying is it started at 8:30. Did it start at 8:30 in your place, and then the people turn out that early, or it was after some hours?
Before 8, I got to the polling unit a few minutes after 8, and before 8, there were almost about 20-something people on the queue already. Before 9, the whole process didn't take me more than 10 minutes to vote, which means that between 20-30 minutes, you could get into the polling unit and go out of the polling unit. By 8:30, voting already commenced. I met about 20-something people on the queue, which is an impressive turnout, because unlike before, what you see is people storming into the polling unit some minutes to 9-10, which delayed voting till sometimes 2-2:30, articulated by INEC. But for what I witnessed at my polling unit by 8, a few minutes after 8, when I got in there were about 20 people already on the queue, which shows that people are willing to cast their vote and determine who leads the state going forward.
All right, let's quickly join Joshua somewhere just outside Osogbo, I think in Lobo. I will just go there quickly to give us a situation report. Then we'll come back to Mr. Ayologun. Also, Cynthia is getting ready to go and watch more votes. But let's take Joshua very quickly.
This is Ward 3, Unit 1 in Lobo, a Rekodun local government area of Osun State, where 296 voters are expected to vote. Electoral officers and the electorate admit that the BVAS is working perfectly. The atmosphere has been calm with the presence of security agents. I have here with me one of the agent electorate, Dr. Abdulrazak Kolawole. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
How can you describe the process so far?
The exercise is very okay. The INEC has done a very wonderful job. The election is peaceful. I have voted. There's no problem. INEC has organized we have done a good job. So we thank God for everything, and we ask them to keep up this type of a system in the coming elections.
At other places like polling unit 2, Ward 5, Ilobo, expected voters are 647, and accreditation with the checking of registered voters with an inking that started in earnest, and they're starting first with party agents, after which aged persons and people with special needs will cast their ballot.
All right. Thank you very much, Joshua, for that update. The next report is the Labour candidate also casting his vote. Let's go that now. Let's go there now, and then we'll be back.
Please let me snap it. Action. So that's what you do, correct? Always change direction, okay? Reflection.
Candidate, Labour Party candidate Lasun Yusuf, going through his own the process there. It looks a bit tight. That polling unit. Well, it looks a bit tight, and I understand. Some of the pictures we've seen, that process, especially the capturing of the fingers or facials or whatever, you do sitting down. Normally, those facilities are provided. In this setting, what would you advise? Seeing that tight.
I found it a bit problematic because what is expected normally, the officials are seated and you approach as a voter. So the APO3 is there that checks that your PVC, you are the right polling unit, and then directs to the next APU, and then they check your details with against the beavers. But I just, if you look at that, it seemed like they came to meet because they are standing where the register of voter is posted, which is usually on the wall. So now there are either two things that may have happened there. Is either they had tried to capture his fingerprints and facials and it wasn't working where they were sitting, and they decided to come to somewhere with better lighting to try that. So that could be it. However, the way it's crowded, a lot of things could happen and go wrong there, and that's where I have him. That's why I say I find it a bit problematic, because the idea of setting up the polling unit is that the crowd do not have direct access to the officials. There's supposed to be a space, there's a queue, and you approach one after the other. And if there's a problem with one person, the person with the beavers just moves. This is the table, literally stands and tries it standing, not necessarily moving and then leaving a lot of chaos. So I do think I do have an issue with that whole setup. However, let's keep watching to see if there will be any reports from that polling unit with respect to the beavers functionality or what have you. But it seemed that he was duly, it went through and he had to proceed to the next process. But I think this is also a call for the INEC monitors who are going around to monitor the process, that as they go to polling unit, they should also advise the officials to properly configure their polling units to ensure that they are not crowded. The security officials are supposed to also help, because when people come, security personnel are meant to ask them to move back and give space. Only the voter, regardless of a candidate or not a candidate, only the voter is supposed to approach the officials, whether regardless of the status of that person. So I think that would make the process a bit more sane, and I hope the monitors, as they go around, would correct any of these abnormalities across the
Did you see
polling.
any of that where you voted?
Of course, I think from what she said and from what we witnessed on the scene, the reason why polling units are put where there are space is because, just like she said, it's a process. The table where we have the POs and the INEC officials are supposed to be such distance from where the queue would be. This is what I witnessed where I voted at Saliaro First Primary School. So of course, it was a feed. The PO, I mean, the INEC officials were under a shed while the rest of the people were there. In fact, there was supposed to be a rope. That's the ideal thing. There's supposed to be a rope tied, which will be the distance between the voters and, of course, the INEC officials. So you come into the demarcation where the rope is, you leave the queue, enter into where the demarcation is, the rope is closed back. So while you are busy...
Almost like an interview.
Almost like an interview. So the process of your voters count being checked, the Beavers technology being used to check the authenticity of your what have you, then you move from that unit to another safer distance where the polling, I mean, the voting box is, and then you cast your vote. That is supposed to be the ideal arrangement so that the process is not compromised. From what we saw in the scene where the former deputy speaker voted, of course, it gives room for compromise. Security officials were there too close to him. The security officials could see the process of the Beavers technology. They could even see the process of him voting. You could clearly see that if it had not been him, if it had been any other voter, it is easy for security officials to tell party agents to say, look, that candidate voted for party A or party B, which are some of the things that we are discouraging in the electoral process. It is essential that when as voters electoral monitors go around, that when some of these things are noticed, it is made clear to the officials of INEC in that place so that they can create space. It's not supposed to be a crowded thing. It's supposed to be the queue on the other side, a rope tied to demarcate. Then you move in to that rope side. Then you approach the INEC officials, do your accreditation, and move to another safer distance to cast the vote. That's the only way that we can ensure the sacredness of the voting system, and that's very important.
All right, where you voted is outside Osun, I guess.
No, it's in Osogbo, somewhere in Fisayo.
Osogbo yesterday when we were talking after the program.
Yes.
So the report they will have, has there been any report of equipment malfunction or delay so far?
Of course, when I finished voting, I joined other leaders of the society group to go around and witness what happened in some of the polling units, and precisely somewhere around Okefia towards Dada Estate, after the mobile filling station. What we witnessed is that the Beavers technology didn't work for a period of 30 minutes while we were there, but before we left there, the INEC officials made a call through to the federal officers, and that machine was replaced. And that is the ideal thing, because from what the INEC told us during the briefing before the election, there were a number of Beavers machines that are kept as backup, so that when there is a failure at point A or point B, it is expected that the INEC official there makes a call through to the headquarters of the INEC, stating the unit, stating the polling center, and such machines are replaced. And that's what we witnessed at one of the polling units in between the Dada State and Okefia, where we monitored. Immediately it was reported. About 4 or 5 people tested and it was not working. So, of course, when you have 4 failure, 5 failure, that shows that there's something wrong with that machine. So the INEC official there put a call through, and within the space of 20 minutes while we were still there, another machine was brought, and that one that is faulty was taken away. And between 5-10 minutes, about 2-3 people were able to have their accreditation done with the Beavers machine, which is a proof that the new one that was brought is functioning very well. And then, of course, we moved away from there, which is not unexpected. It is technology. It could fail somewhere and work properly. So that's why there is a backup. So I am saying this so that people at home who are yet to vote, if you get to your polling unit and there's a failure of the Beavers technology, there is provision for replacement. Let nobody tell you that, look, because the Beavers machine is not working, you are free to just cast your vote anyhow. No. Ensure that the Beavers machine is used at your polling unit, because that is the only way we can ascertain the number of voters exactly. It is supposed to be the technology balanced with the hard copy of whatever is done. So voting should not just be seen, it should not just be done. It should be seen done. And the only way that could be done is to have the Beavers machine, which keeps a record of how many people were accredited, and that can be matched with the total number of votes cast eventually when results are announced, so that there will not be disparity between figures. Somebody saying, oh, only 50 people were accredited, 200 results were declared. That will not be possible if the Beavers machine is allowed to work properly. You can look at the total number of people accredited to the Beavers machine and align that with the total number of voters at that polling unit. And of course, the agent of the party sees it, and there won't be discrepancies or cries or fights over what is not.
All right, let's just lean on him to get some information. Earlier in the program, I was asking Cynthia for the issues of inclusion and the assistive, equipment, aids that have been brought to
you do bear on the elections, the braille, the glasses for BNOs and all that. So did you see that in your center, and have they been deployed properly?
You mean
the devices to assist people that are physically challenged?
I didn't see that. The only thing I noticed somewhere at Adelabu was the fact that people showed empathy. Of course, one of the guidelines of INEC is that when you have older people or when you have people that are physically challenged, INEC has always advocated that they are allowed to have access to the polling center earlier than the others. I didn't see technology could to maybe partially blind people or whatever. I didn't see that. But of course, in the polling unit where I observed at Adelabu, we saw 2 old women who were being aided by their sons or relatives, as the case may be, arriving at the polling unit. And immediately that happened, the people created space for them by allowing them to move immediately to the front of the queue, have the accreditation done, and of course they could leave. That to me is 2 things. Number one, it shows that the people of the state are exemplifying the Omoluabi ethos, because one of the things that we do in Yoruba land is to give respect to the aged and of course those that we feel we are stronger than. So that for me is a sign of empathy on the part of the voters, which is a thumbs up, and also it is also a proof that people are aligning with the directive of INEC by ensuring that people of old age and those that are physically challenged are given earlier access, no matter how long or no matter how late they come, so that they can have their franchise done and of course move away from the polling units.
Cynthia, you are soon going to the field. With some of the things you've seen, the reports you've seen and heard, what would you be expecting at this time? That everything is sorted, or what would we be expecting at this time? We just have about 2.5 hours?
Yeah, 30 minutes to noon. I normally by noon you can give a better sense of what happened in the commencement phase. But I think at this point, one of the things we're expecting is that we should have at least 100% of polls opened and voting and accreditation commence across the state. Every polling unit is open. Another expectation I'm expecting from the process is that at this point, issues around the beavers would have been easily addressed, because the idea is when you start, you can identify which of the beavers has issues, and you can apply or reach out to your RATEC to provide support or provide a replacement. So we wouldn't want to be seeing issues around the beavers around now, because the idea is that by now you're sorting out a lot of those issues. The other point is I'm still expecting that voters, or if you're still watching and still trying to make up your mind whether you want to vote, please, you still have the opportunity to go out to vote. The process is until 2:30 and you still have the time to go join the queue. Thankfully, we have evidence from the field that if you come in, the process is working. So please get out with your PVC and go and cast your vote for the next governor of the state. And incidents of vote buying, I know there will be attempts and there will be temptations. Please resist that temptation, wherever the temptation may be. And then it's a deep call to the personnel that are responsible. Once you see individuals going out to buy votes, kindly make the appropriate arrest, because that is how you deter such occurrences. If after Osun we say 10 people were arrested, 10 people were prosecuted, you see the next time we use those numbers as evidence to tell others that, hey, see what happened in Osun, these people were arrested and these people were prosecuted. That way it deters that this very horrendous and horrible practice that we're seeing as part of our elections. We're still hopeful the process will be peaceful, and the people of Osun will remain calm and wait for the process to be concluded. Results will be uploaded, I'm sure, from 2:30. Once you go on the INEC results portal, you can create a login detail. You can start to download your polling unit level results. We always advise people to do that because it also promotes transparency. You can see that INEC is uploading the results, just so that if your polling unit result is not uploaded, you can also flag it and say, I voted here, I did not see my polling unit result on the portal. So it also helps us provide oversight on that particular process. So there's a lot of expectations. I'm hopeful by midday we would have a better sense on how the process has been. But I'm glad that so far it's been peaceful. We've not had any major reports on violence. So far, I've not gone back to check on our database also, but so far it's been peaceful, and that is reasonably commendable. We hope the process remains peaceful and that at the end of it all, we celebrate that the election is concluded at one ballot. We don't want to go for a rerun of what we mentioned.
All right, before Claire, I don't know if you're there. Cynthia is just about rounding off now to go back on the field. I still have Fisayo Logo right here with us. He's just performed his duties, civic duties, and he's back in the studio with us. It seems as if the process is going seamlessly at the moment. Mr. Ayologun, how about town generally? Were people able to move from destination to destination, because that's always a challenge on election day?
Interestingly, from the different parts of Osogbo, at least from early today, moving from my place somewhere around the power line to Isalero, where I voted. From there, I've been around the Daya Estate, back to Okefia, Alekuodo, Goluwa, before coming to the studios here in Abere. The security officials have been very, very professional in their approach. Of course, if you are passing in group, which is one thing I noticed, if individuals are working, they don't approach you to ask questions. But of course, immediately they notice that you are working in group of maybe 5 and more, and the security officials stopping them to ask questions, because this is one of the ways to prevent violence. Once you see 5-6 people working together, you don't know what their aim is. And from what I saw around the town before getting to the studio, once people
even 5 and 6 women.
Yeah, even 5 and 6 women. That I saw that around the Okefia, and I must say this, that it's actually working. There was a situation at that Okefia roundabout. There were about 6 young men that were working together, and the police had to approach them. Of course, my vehicle was stopped. They wanted to do a check on to see what the content of my boot is and all that. And while that was going on, I saw on the other side a group of 5-6 young boys being stopped. And while they stopped them and searched their pocket, they saw one of them having weed in his pocket. And of course, what do you go to the polling unit to do with weed? He was singled out of those 6 and kept in one of the vehicles of the security officers, where others were allowed to go. These are some of the ways to prevent violence, because if you allow young men to get to the polling area with weeds, with cannabis and what have you, and they sneak into one corner to have it smoked, of course, that could ignite crisis. And on the part of the security officer, that is professional enough. They have not seen them stopping individuals. But of course, when you are in a group of 5 or more, they stop you, carry out check, and they are not giving any waiver. The fact that you have sticker on your car as election observer or as journalist does not make you immune to check. They demanded for what they needed to ask. They asked for my ID card. They asked for my tag. They asked for whatever INEC gave as identification. They even asked me to step down, open the boot of my car to check the content, because some of the things we've witnessed in the election is, of course, it's not rampant, but it happens. We cannot shy away from it. Situation whereby we have journalists, so-called journalists, and so-called observers, because we always have the bad ones who aid political parties to move money from one place to another, or move one thing or the other. So the security officers are not giving room to chances. No matter how IP plays, no matter the sticker on your car, they will still stop you to carry out check, which is a thumbs up to make sure that nobody hides under any identity to perpetrate evil. Is a big plus.
All right, I would, stay on that side as well, and perhaps that's the reason why the NDLEA, is also on that committee. So that young man might want to think about, the consequences of having such a thing in his pocket. Not even his PVC, but something else.
He has his PVC and he has a weed with it.
All right, Cynthia, you've made your final intervention on the program, but since the director said he still wanted a word or two from you, I just want to look at this. Are you also looking at the patterns? Being a woman, the participation of women in both electoral processes, both on the podium or even coming out for this, especially the younger ones, since over a while, over some time, this has been in the public domain, or top discourse, that women have such huge numbers, but sometimes they don't bring it to bear.
Well, I think the thing to also identify that Osun election is an all-male ticket conversation, and there are only 6 female deputy governorship candidates. All the governorship candidates are all men, and which is worrying, because I know Osun has very powerful, educated, enlightened women, even women that are in the political parties, that are strong powerhouses in political parties, that have engaged parties from as far back. But it's worrisome that we did not have any of even the major parties, the top parties, field deputy governorship candidates, because both the APC and PDP are an all-male ticket. There is that worry around candidacy. And when it comes to candidacy, we still have a major challenge with women emerging as candidates of parties, or flag bearers of parties. The other conversation around participation of voters, it's a bit more tricky. Interestingly, nationally, we are seeing that the newly registered voters, the ongoing CVR, we have more women registered in this new CVR.
All right, so Cynthia, let me thank you for coming and welcome Larry again. Larry Gweleyi is there, yes, adjusting his Yoruba native there, perhaps feeling the heat a little. It's now getting to 12. Larry, where are you? Yes, adjust properly. Where are you and what can you tell us?
Thank you very much. I'm in Ward 4, Unit 4 in Eden North Local Government. I have with me here a lady and one of the gentlemen, almost 70-year-old electorate that has just finished voting, and I pulled Amina out of the accreditation line. She came all the way from Lagos to participate in this exercise. Amina, give me your impression as a first-time voter on this exercise. What's your impression?
This place is very cool. There's no problem here, and it's very enjoying. We enjoy everything. Nobody is fighting over there.
This is your first time to vote?
My first time to vote in Osun State. I vote in Lagos State.
Why did you transfer to Osun State?
I just like Osun State to vote.
Is Osun State your town?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me leave you so that you can go to your accreditation line. Baba, you've been voting for how many years now?
For more than 4 times I've been voting here. For more than 4 times I've been voting here.
I want you to compare this, what we have here.
Say this is the best so far since I've been voting here, because I was here before 8. By 8 o'clock, the officials were already here. They've started pasting the voters' names on the walls. By 8:20, they collected everybody of us and told us about the way they are to do everything. But so far, so good. They gave priority to the handicapped and the old people.
That makes you one of them, and you're voting.
Yes, that's why I was able to vote very early, because I was one of the 8 people that were here. So they did very well.
That's on the part of INEC. On the part of security, what could you say?
Security was excellent. We met them here and they were just managing the place very well. So no problem here. So far, so good.
What about the people that came out? Do you expect more than this, or these are the...
Really, people came here to exercise their civic responsibility. You see, they were here early in time. As you can see, people were trooping in here and the voting is going on very fine. So no problem at all. No problem. Everything is going on fine. So far, so good.
The number of the youth, are they more? I can see a lot of youth here. What can you say to that? Is that a positive development for your community?
That's good. We have, even when you see the population of those who are here now, most of them are youths. And as a result, maybe they were up and doing within their environment.
Don't you think this is a consciousness? This is another awareness?
Really, it is an awareness for them that they are to partake in the development of their area and the state as
an elderly person, a community leader. What do you think this impact will be in the community?
Okay, it's a good impact. It gives room for more progress in the community as well as in the state. So they are up to their responsibilities as far as I'm concerned. They are here without any crisis. They were just voting and as well as going about their moral.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, that's what we have here at Unit 4, Ward 4 in Eden North Local Government. From here, we move to another unit to have a feel. I hope I'll get people with special needs there to have a feel of what is going on there.
Thank you.
If you can hear me, first of all, help me greet Baba very well. you've spoken to two generations. You've spoken to Baba and of course the young lady. So you are the one in the middle. But give us a sense of what is happening there in terms of is it orderly? Because I can see people scattered right behind you. Is it orderly and is it going very fast?
It's fast. It's fast and it's orderly. The people scattered around are the people living around the area. They are not, they've done their exercise, their civic exercise, but they are still hanging around. Some of them are waiting for members of the family. Some of them are living in the area. Some of them are waiting for their friends who are still on the accreditation line. That is what is going on here. So the ones on the queue are the ones still waiting to be answered by the INEC officials.
All right, Larry, a quick one again. You've gone around to some, polling units around town and even beyond. Just give us your own impressions about the beavers. Has there been anywhere where it has malfunctioned or delayed the process?
The ones that I've gone to, there have been no delay. I asked the people about the beavers. They said the beavers are working perfectly. The ones that are not working might be due to some issues, maybe on fingerprinting. And when they do it again, it goes. And all in all, the beavers are still working in the places that I've been to.
Very much. If I had the beavers too, I would just give you a pass mark for some of the things you have been doing right here. But let me just welcome Professor Ademola Oyedekunle was here yesterday, Assistant Professor of English and Applied Linguistics, Federal University of Oye Ekiti. Thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure.
You expressed optimism yesterday. Are you still expressing the same? You've gone to Ikire, you are back now, and have you participated in the process as well?
Yes, I did. I voted in my polling unit at Balogun in Ikire. And as a matter of fact, the election process was very orderly, and people conducted themselves in very, very orderly manner. Not more so, just as we have been advocating, there's a large turnout. In fact, it is observed in the history of voting in the state. A large turnout of people everywhere. In fact, I monitored that in Odiomo on my way coming. The same thing in Bagon, the same thing in Ikire. And apart from my polling unit in Balogun village in Ikire, I had to drive through Ikire to monitor the process too. And I found that apart from the large turnout, the people conducted themselves in very orderly manner. The beavers worked very well, and where there were some itches, I would call the assistant polling officer or something
APO.
like that. APO. We use the beaver to take photograph of the candidate. And as a matter of fact, all the names of the accredited voters in the polling unit, the list has been pasted. All you need to do is to check your name, the number on which your name appeared, and to see whether it tallies with the record of the electoral umpire there. By and large, so far, so good.
All right, Prof. I wish that I gave you a camera to just film this process, but you've been able to give us the process almost as if we're in a lecture.
Yes.
So let's see, some visuals. Of course, we've showed a few candidates. This is the Governor Boyega Oyetola's polling units and understanding Iragwiji. The governor, voted earlier. We have visuals from there now. We will show you the visuals. Performed his own duty there. Of course, it is his fingers on the ballot now, but it is actually the people of the state marking a script at this time to see how that pans out. So we'll see, we'll see actualities from Iragwiji, how the governor voted. We have already showed you the Labour candidate as well, all participating in the process and hoping for the best at the end of the day when the results begin to come in. Once we see the pictures, of course, we will show you. But Prof is here. You've said it's been seamless. It's been in the areas you have gone to. The same with Mr. Ayologun. You were almost boastfully telling me about the how sophisticated your people are. As you can see, some live pictures of some areas in Oshogbo where the crowd, is expectant. They are guarded. Some are performing their duties as we speak. And there seems to be an atmosphere of not as crowded as Osun Shogbo Festival, but it still has a carnival like a festival, and the people are just enjoying themselves. They remember, the younger generation, the first time voter was saying it's a nice place, we're having fun. So they are seeing it as something to be excited about, and even the older generation, it has also captured their imagination. So Mr. Logan, by and large, at least at this time, we are hopeful that the process completely will go smoothly, and then we'll come to INEC headquarters, and then the result sheet will come. And just like candidates and invigilators, at the end of the day, the results will be posted, and then we will begin to go home.
It's important to put in perspective the fact that unlike in years past, the final result of the election, according to the declaration of INEC, will be out in 12 hours. 12 hours after the the close of the, which means the election closed at 4. 12 hours after that, which means latest by the early hours of Sunday morning, we should have a winner. And it's also important to remind the people and also to let them know that there are a lot of rules and guidelines that INEC has put in place, and that is the essence of the electronic transmission of results. INEC has made it clear that as soon as the elections are concluded at the polling unit and such results are declared, it will be uploaded to the database of INEC, where every Nigerian can easily log in and see. You can find out, of course, if you voted at the polling unit and you waited till the results are declared, you already know what party A had, what party B had, and you could take that by logging into the INEC portal to see if the result on the portal of the INEC is a true reflection of what happened at the polling unit. And of course, INEC has made it clear that they are relying on the electronic results.
All right, we are leaving the polling center in Oshogbo. We just want to go up a bit and look around the town. As you can see, the ambience, just for you to have an idea of where we are. The rest of the nation, you're still trying to have a sense of what we're talking about. So you're seeing it from the polling center. We're pulled out to the city itself, and you can see not so much movement outside town. People are at the polling units at this time, and many are still waiting for members of the family and people they have spoken to in the course of the week to come and exercise their franchise. You are expecting huge numbers because of some of the things you've seen in your areas. Apart from that, for those who are not as conversant with the new procedures, was it seamless for them? Let me start with Prof. For people of the older generation who are used to just
from the experience I gathered traveling to Ikire, I'm back now this morning. The beavers, the polling agents, the INEC officials there are ready to help the not so literate voters there. Apart from that, the machines are easy to manipulate. All you need to do is just to put your thumb there, and if you capture your data, in fact, you see yourself as having registered in that page before. The data that will come out will truly reflect yours, and where there are itches, maybe some people have watery fingerprints that may not easily be captured. They will use the photograph and ask you to do it again. And I think so far it's so seamless. The 3 or 4 cases I waited to see because I was in haste back here, and I want to know what's happening inside town too. I think it was seamless. Not much so, like I said yesterday, but probably because of the advocacy we had engaged in the recent time. In fact, the turnout is so huge. Like even in my polling, I was wondering, how come? And someone will say, it's since 4 years, and so many people have attained voting age, and of course, we have not stopped giving back. So it is seamless, and I think what I've seen so far from Ikire, from Odiomu, from Bagan, it's a welcome development.
All right, you can see the brown roofs of some of the places in Oshogbo, but I can tell you the new feeling towards the electoral process is shining new in Osogbo, and it is also a period, a weekend that is going to determine what happens in the state for in the next 4 years. As you're seeing some live pictures from Osogbo, and of course we'll go to other parts of the state as well to give. So we also understand that the deputy governor of the APC has also casted, of course, been able to participate in the process, and then we will also, if we have pictures, we will give you the pictures. Now I understand the pictures already. Let's have it, then we'll continue our discussion. All right, that's the deputy governor there also, and unlike some other areas where we'll see maybe a lot of complaints, it's just gone at least to this point seamlessly. I'm talking about the VIVAS and the capturing of the fingers. I understand that if that is not, if you can't do that, there's the facials to recognition that you can also have to authenticate if you are in that particular polling unit, and of course if the card is yours as well. There was an interesting incident in Ekiti State. There was an old baba of about almost 90 years, 80 something years, and the machine could not capture his fingers. And he jokingly said in Yoruba that he's been a farmer for 70 years using the cutlass. That is not likely you are going to get any.
The veins are almost there.
So they got his facials, and the process went seamlessly. For you personally, you've done a lot of things in terms of advocacy and sensitization before this process. Is it what you have seen? Has it given you, better encouragement that what you have done perhaps has yielded results and people have responded, to the process as against some of the, feelings of apathy that we've seen in the past?
Certainly, yes. That's what I just said in my opening remarks. We, in the recent time, have pleaded with people to come out. And when you see there are all these security men we call show of force to send some signals to would-be miscreants that there will be problem if you come out to foment trouble. So that was why we had to quickly tell our people that the presence of these military guys, the presence of the armed policemen, the mobile police forces, the civil defense, all these are meant to safeguard the interest of voters so that nobody will be intimidated, nobody will be molested at the polling. And it played out. I must commend, even while traveling on the long road, I at the time became afraid because of kidnapping, because the roads were deserted, completely deserted. I could count at least maybe 6-7 vehicles from Osogbo to Ikire driving through the main road. But even the military officers, the policemen met on the road were courteous. Please, I have an assignment with the NTA, this is my notification, and this is whatever. They were so courteous. At the police center, we will find that even the police, take away, not that they abdicated their responsibility. They didn't interfere with the polling, but you could feel their presence there, which is also a plus. And I want to use this medium to thank the Inspector General of Police for making good this word to promise that the men will abide by the rules of engagement. Having said that also, I must commend our people. They listen to our current call that we must not stay away. This is for us to participate in. This is for us to ensure that we bring a new order. We participate and ensure that we put in place people who will be our leaders. Just like myself and my colleague here will say, let the rest of us rule the rest of us. And I think the call that we have made in recent time has come to fruition. Because honestly speaking, I may not be able to lay out on the statistics now, but I can tell you from what I saw in Ikire, in Odiomu, in Bagan, that the turnout is huge, is humongous.
All right, I understand that my colleague in Abuja, Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak, may want to sign off the guests there who have been very engaging and giving us a very good intervention since morning. I want to also thank you from this end for being a part of it. So Claire, it's back to you for your thoughts. And of course, Cynthia asked me to tell you that on those issues that you discussed, is it all clear now on vote buying? Because our presenter in Abuja is actually clear.
Tayo, I was only relaying, the opinion of my guests here. It's not. I mean, I don't have an opinion in this matter. But you do know well that vote buying is condemnable, and as such, whether it's of political culture, whether it's a crime, what is bad is bad, and we must all join hands together to ensure that it doesn't eat into our democratic structure, and it doesn't mar our electoral process. I think that's what my guests here have been trying to say. Dr. Male, you have been doing that, but thank you. Before I sign you off, I'd just like you to say a few words on the conduct of the election so far. Our correspondents have gone round. We've had our correspondents speak to us from Irewole, Ikire, Irepodo, Ede, Modakeke, Ilodile, Ilesha, and so many. So far.
Well, so far so good. I listened with rapt attention to the professor that just came to the studio. He has been to a number of places. I listened to all the your correspondents who are on the field. I also listened to Cynthia and Eze, who gave very, very incisive. The truth of the matter is that the INEC so far has really improved on what we saw in the previous election. The materials arrived at the various polling units. Most of the polling units that we have seen, the material arrived on time, between 8 to 8:30. The polling has been orderly. Less complaints about the beavers. The accreditation is going on smoothly, and no case of violence has been reported so far. It's almost 12 noon, close to almost 4 to 5 hours of voting of the process. So far so good. We hope that the momentum keep building until voting stops and the collation of results and so on. So for now, we are confident that a lot of improvement is happening in our electoral process, and we hope that we keep this momentum in the rundown to 2023 election.
All right, Dr. Mali, thank you. Dr. Suleiman Barnabas, what are your concerns so far? The main issues of functionality of the beavers, we've seen so far so good. And one thing I think I observed is the fact that within the space area of the beavers, it's not as crowded. I remember an INEC official, John Dekiti, did, specify that as one of the issues that affected the use of the beavers. What's your opinion so far?
Yes, the takeaway from what the reports we've been receiving from Osun State is that the process is improving. INEC is responsive to the things they hear from CSOs and other stakeholders on what they must do to improve the process. And kudos to them for that. I think that now the CSOs must also turn their attention to our politicians, because the major, barrier to Nigeria's quest for an improved, a developed democratic process is our politicians. Once they can do, make up their mind to change for good and, eliminate the interferences with the process, we'll have a very good political democratic politics in our country.
Dr. Suleiman Barnabas, political sociologist, lecturer at the Bayes University here in Abuja, and also political analyst. I'd like to really, from the team here, appreciate you for joining me on Osun Desert Studios.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure.
All right. I'll still keep Dr. Omale here with me, of course, in a short while. But let's take a short break now.
Currently, I am at 002 unit, Bishop Street, along that local government area where voting process is ongoing. We have 963 accredited voters to vote at this particular polling unit. I have with me the candidate of the Social Democratic Party, architect Goke Omigbodun, who just finished casting his ballot. How is the whole process?
Well, I've just finished casting my vote. As far as I'm concerned, thus far it has been peaceful. We had reports about vote buying in this previous. I have not seen any around here for now because I'm actually not feeling too fine, so I'm not staying long around here. But I've cast my vote and I can see other people still casting their votes. We hope everything will go very well until the end of the balloting period.
Okay. The Beavers machine, how is it working?
For me, it worked perfectly. When I presented my card, it brought out my name. I saw my picture, brought out my details, and I presented it. I was given my ballot paper, and I voted.
What is your charge to people concerning violence-free election?
I have always preached non-violence. I'm a pastor, I'm a preacher, I'm a priest of the Anglican Church. And other than that, I'm a non-state actor that believes so much in peace. I'm a mentor for the younger people. I run a school. I teach non-violence. So I want to appeal to people out there, please shun violence. And I want to appeal to people too who will not sell their votes. Please come out in large numbers. It's peaceful where I am, and I have not heard of reports of violence anywhere. So please come out to vote. I came out, I voted, and you can see I'm still in the midst of the people. Nobody is attacking anybody.
Thank you very much. I have been speaking with the candidate of the Social Democratic Party on the ongoing Osun governorship election, and he said everything is calm here. And now I hand you over back to the studio.
All right, thank you very much. Now let's give you more information. Governor Gboyega Oyetola and his wife have been at the polling unit to exercise their civic rights. Accreditation and voting also have commenced in Iraguji and Burikpe local government area, Ward 1, Unit 2. All right, we are back here. Let me quickly, before we take our next report, introduce our guest who's joined me, for this conversation. Professor Adefemi Isumona is a professor of political science and former head Department of Political Science, University of Ibadan. He's also of the Center for Democracy and Development election analysis expert. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
Yes, and Dr. Matthew O'Malley, stay with us for this conversation. And I understand that one of our correspondents had an interview with the deputy governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party shortly after casting his ballot. We want to take that report now, if we do have it.
You have casted your ballot. How's your experience during your stay here?
It was good. Everything is going on very well. Very smoothly. No misunderstanding. Nothing whatsoever.
The beaver machine. What can you say about the beaver machine?
All worked out. Nothing has failed so far.
So because we see that there was a massive turnout there. So the process, is it moving fast or?
Moving very fast.
Okay, thank you.
My name is Ahmed Semi Olabanjo. I'm a voter here. And we are at Naira Kobo open space. Thank you. The paper machine, they told us that there is 3 ways in which we can use it. That is to say, if you put our hand there and the machine represents our hand, we can use our face. If it recognizes our face, we'll be able to fit.
But now, what can you say in regards to the case of this woman now?
The case of the woman, they said she should wait. I hope they will rectify it.
But so far, has it been any malfunction?
There is no much manufacturing. People have been voting since morning. It's 8:30.
Thank you, sir.
Well, we do really apologize for those, gaps in those reports, and of course, for not bringing you the report on the with the PDP, the deputy governor, PDP candidate. We would certainly do that as soon as we get that report. Okay, we are getting feelers that the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission's personnel are fully on ground, and their duty is to check illegal electorate acts such as vote buying. So far, nobody has been apprehended. All right, welcome back to the studio. Earlier on, I introduced Professor Adefemi Isumona and Dr. Adoye Matthew O'Malley. Stay with me. But here are very vital information I think we should have given you earlier on. And these are the data statistics from INEC. And the first one, of course, will be it will be the if we have it, yes, that's the Osun Decides electoral data. Here we have the number of the LGAs. We have 30 LGAs. We have number of senatorial districts, 3. number of sorry about that. The
State
number of constituencies.
26.
26. It's coming up. It will be
26.
That's 26, and of course we know that I want to also have us see some of the candidates, governorship candidates, if I can get it on set now. This technology is, it shouldn't fail me. Okay, let's see if we come. Okay, this is the names of the Osun governorship candidates and their deputies for July, and we have the Action Congress AAC. Governor is Awojude Peter Shegun. He's age 59, and his deputy is Fakiyesi Oluwadare Gideon, and he's aged 35. Let me bring in Professor Adefemi Isumona. Let us look at, the demography of those contesting, especially for the governorship and their candidates. You see the age bracket and you see their qualifications. Is it going to help, I don't want to use upgrade. Is it going to help give quality, to the electoral process? Because most times when we talk about poor governance, we look at the leadership, the quality of leadership. Here we've seen this candidates now. How will they impact on the quality of leadership for Osun State?
Well, first, what we discovered at Center for Democracy and Development is that about 4 out of the candidates are below 40 years old, which suggests that there's improvement in the number of young people showing interest and participating at this level. Whether the age variation is going to impact on governance.
Prof, I'm sorry.
All right.
Just hold your breath for a while.
Okay.
My colleague Lanre Biling is standing by with more updates for us. Lanre.
I'm in Ward 8, Unit 9 in the North right now, and I have with me Mama. Mama has been voting for quite a while. I'm going to do this in a way that I'll ask her in Yoruba and I'll paraphrase. Mommy, ẹ pẹ̀lẹ́ kú iṣẹ́ ìlú. Bó lẹ ṣe rí ọ̀rọ̀ iṣẹ́ ìlú yìí sí tẹwàá dìbò? Bó ló ṣe ṣe láti gbà tẹ́ ti bẹ̀rẹ̀?
Pẹ̀rẹ̀ gbogbo rẹ̀ ń lọ àjà àta tọmọ tìjà láǹṣe kò sẹ́ni ọjà kódà rẹ́rìn látàárọ̀ kò sẹ́ni ọjà fúnra wọn.
Pẹ̀lú ètò ààbò ńkọ́?
Wọ́n ti ẹ̀ ṣe dáadáa wọ́n ti ẹ̀ ṣe dáadáa bí ìpá wọn gbà wá la bí ẹni ṣe ń ṣe jẹ́jẹ́jẹ́jẹ́ látàárọ̀ táwọn rẹ́rìn náà ṣe gbogbo ẹ̀.
Àwọn ìwà jàgídíjàgan tó máa ń wá nígbà ètò òbò ṣé kò sí?
Ọlọ́run ti ẹ̀ fi ọ wá Ọlọ́run fi ọ wá.
Kí lórí kan yín mọ́?
Débànkẹ́ Súlè.
Màmá, kí ni àwọn àmọ̀ràn tẹ́ ní fáwọn èèyàn wa gẹ́gẹ́ bí ọ̀dọ́ náà nítorí bẹ́ẹ̀ ṣe dàgbà tó tẹ́tù sì wá ń dìbò? Kí ni ìmọ̀ràn yín tẹ́lẹ̀ lómi ò dìbò mọ́?
Nígbà wọn ní àwa náà ni iná ló jẹ́ àwa pé wọn ò pèsè ọmọ tàwa náà.
Let me paraphrase. I asked her about 3 questions. I asked her about the way the election is going on here in this unit, and she said it's peaceful. I asked about the security. She said the security has been very impressive. And I said, what advice does she have for all the people? As old as she is, she's still coming out to vote. She said it's imperative that we must come out and vote for the people we want, especially as a grandmother. She has children too that must enjoy the dividends of democracy. Let me ask her one more thing before I leave. Mommy, kí ni àmọ̀ràn yín tẹ́ ní fáwọn àgbàlagbà kan tó jẹ́ pé wọ́n ti ní àwọn òdìbò wàhálà wọn tiẹ̀ ti pọ̀ jù?
Gbogbo wa la ti wà wá lérò Ọlọ́run òjò sí wàhálà kan kọ̀ọ̀kan gbogbo wa la jáde àtàrúgbó àtẹ̀ríkì níbẹ̀ láwọn ìyá mi ti ń jókòó lé gbogbo wa la pé wámú torí wọn ò pèsè ọmọ tàwa náà.
Àwọn kan wà tó jókòó lé tán láwọn òdìbò.
Rárá gbogbo wa la wọ ẹnìkan kan ò jókòó lé.
Ní Ẹ̀dẹ́nbì.
Pẹ̀lú ògo Ọlọ́run àwọn èèyàn jáde àwọn tí wọ́n wálé ọdún gan ò tí ì lọ torí ìbò gan mọ́ tó fi wáyé látẹ̀yìn odi.
Eshe. Paraphrasing, I asked what advice does she have for other elderly people. She said all elderly people in this unit are out here voting. Some have gone home. She said some people came in for Salah and they have not gone since back to their place, and they waited till the election before they and performed their civic duties. Claire.
And really excited at the, her enthusiasm and of course optimism and what's coming from her as a grandmother and as an elderly one. She said there was, no fighting. They were all smiling at the polling station. Everybody is out, and of course, like you said, those who had who went home for Salah are still there. But let me ask Mama one question, and I would try and speak in Yoruba as well. And Lanre, bá mi bèrè lọ́wọ́ màmá pé ṣé wọ́n fún wọn lówó láti dìbò.
Mama, wọ́n ní ń béèrè lọ́wọ́ yín, ǹjẹ́ wọ́n fún yín lówó láti dìbò ni?
ìfẹ́ la wà fẹ́ ìfẹ́ la bá wà mọ̀ fáwa lówó àfọwọ́ dìbò àwọn torí owó dìbò.
She said they came because of the love of their community. They are not induced in any way of money to vote.
Okay, Lanre, the young man that's holding on to Mama, we would like to know more about the young man. Is he her son or who? What?
Actually, it's not a son. It's somebody that helped her out to stand up here, that volunteered. She is also voting. He volunteered to bring Mama here. It's not our son. But if you want me to engage him, of course, Baba, báwo lẹ ṣe rí bò tí eléyìí sí orúkọ yín.
Orúkọ mi ni Dáúdà Wàlíù Káyọ̀dé.
Ìbò yìí ní pápá.
Ìbò yìí ó wà pa, so kò sí wàhálà kankan, ẹnìkankan ò gbowó bíbí, gbogbo wa jáde pé a mọ̀ pé yes pé kí Nàìjíríà lè dáa, kí gbogbo nǹkan lè rọrùn, tí gbogbo ẹ̀ bá rí báyìí ní ẹlẹ́sàn tó ń bọ̀ lọ́hùn ọkàn ó balẹ̀ tí ò sí wàhálà báyìí.
To paraphrase, he said that they came out because they want things to be better. They want things to turn out okay. Claire.
Lanre, I understand that Fisayo is also has one or two questions for you. So I'll just allow Fisayo to take his questions.
I enjoyed your interaction with Mama, and she gave us quite some insights. As old as she is saying that there are even people much older than her are right there in the polling unit, and there's nobody at home at this time. As she also, in her capacity as matriarch or an elder, been able to galvanize others. Ṣé Màmá ti ran àwọn èèyàn, wọ́n ti gba àwọn èèyàn nímọ̀ràn ní agboolé ibẹ̀ yẹn pé kọ́ máa bọ̀ wá dìbò.
Ti gba àwọn èèyàn mọ̀ràn, ẹ ti pe àwọn èèyàn wá láti wá dìbò, kì í ṣe pé ẹ̀yin nìkan náà lẹ jáde síta wá ṣe é ṣe yẹn.
Gbogbo èèyàn pọ̀ rẹpẹtẹ.
Gẹ́gẹ́ bí ẹnìkan yín.
Èèyàn pọ̀ gidi gan.
Ṣẹ́yìn náà lẹ fà á tẹ fi tọ́ fi wá.
Pẹ̀lú ògo Ọlọ́run àwọn náà ti múra àtakùn àpá wọn ó dìbò torí ọjọ́ ọ̀la àwọn ọmọ wa kó lè bá a rọrùn fún wa.
She said yes, besides telling them, they are also ready to come out and vote because of the future of the coming generation.
Talking about the process itself, a man is holding her hands. I'm not sure if that the voting hand. The man is holding her hand, but when she went for, to actually put her finger on the, to thumbprint, was it the one who helped her put her hand, or she did it herself?
Well, if I can answer that, the man is holding our hands because she can't stand too long. But when she's doing all that, the accreditation, I think they don't take time with them. The elderly, especially the elderly, they are fast about it. That's why because we are standing and facing the camera. That's why the man volunteered. It's not the son. He volunteered. He's also a voter. Volunteered to bring the woman forward here.
Much, Larry, but help us apologize to Mama for making us stand for so long. Perhaps when next we come for the general elections, I'll replace you there to come and say thank you to her personally, and perhaps learn even better Yoruba as well. Thank you so very much, Larry Billing. Let's quickly take the governor's reaction after he performed the civic duty at Iragbiji. Iragbiji is the capital and the headquarters of Borikwe local government area.
Well, I think it's been so far so good. The process is very smooth. Everybody is doing what it's supposed to do. The INEC officials are doing very well. Notice the presence of a lot of security personnel, which gives confidence in the minds of the voters to come and vote. But looking at the pace of accreditation, I believe in some places there may be need to have more reverts because the process is for a very short period. So we can afford a situation where a lot of
All right, so let me quickly appreciate Dr. Adoye Matthew Omale, who's been with me since the start of this conversation, and he's a political scientist and international affairs analyst. Dr. Mali, we do appreciate you. Thank you, and have a good day.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so let's take our next report.
Please let me snap it. Action. So that's what you do, guys. Always change direction, okay? Reflection.
All right, thank you. And let me welcome to this conversation. Associate Professor Musa Ibori, he's of the Department of Political Science and International Relations at the University of Abuja. I was going to say Lagos. Don't mind me. That's